As many of you have noticed, our country is deeply divided. For those of you who haven't noticed, our country is deeply divided. Half the people seem to be clinging to old-fashioned values like faith, patriotism, and decency, and the other half vote for the Democrats. But we here at the Andrew Klavan Show believe that through education and understanding, we can begin to build bridges between us conservatives and the evil knuckleheads on the left. So today we'd like to examine a key principle of what we laughingly call leftist thought, namely relativism. Relativism is the idea that there is no absolute truth, knowledge, or morality, but that each culture forms its own sense of what's true or false, or right or wrong. Relativists claim that there are cultures where our most deeply held morals and values do not apply. Places where infidelity is acceptable, places where cowardice is admired, places where murder is just an ordinary event that one must get used to. Places like France, in other words. According to these leftists, the virtue of relativism is that it makes you less judgmental about other cultures. Let's say, for example, you're a woman traveling in Saudi Arabia and you find yourself being flogged to death for exposing your bare ankle. Rather than taking a haughty tone that privileges your Western values, you might instead observe that when one is in Saudi Arabia, one must learn to behave like a retrograde savage without the moral sense God gave a coyote. Or you might prefer to stay in America with your relatives, hence the term relativism. The important point is that if you don't believe anything is good or bad, you won't be prejudiced, which is bad in your culture. In other cultures, prejudice is good, which is bad in your culture, and so on. Relativism derives from the belief that there is no God, and therefore there can be no absolute moral values. Many philosophers have expressed this belief. For instance, Nietzsche said, "God is dead, so when an eagle feeds on a lamb, it is neither good nor evil." God responded a few years later by saying, "Now Nietzsche is dead, so ha 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 ha." But of course, the belief in God has also been destroyed by science, which has shown that the universe is without reason and without cause. Science accomplished this by using reason to discover the causes of things, which would only be possible in a universe that had reason and cause and therefore had been created by God. Scientists haven't quite made sense of this yet, but it doesn't matter because everything's relative. Now, there could be some drawbacks to relativism. For instance, if one culture believes in tolerance and another culture believes in slaughtering everyone who believes in tolerance, it could lead to occasional friction. But it's safe to say the situation won't continue very long, and soon there'll only be one of these cultures left. So, hooray for relativism. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
Hooray, hurrah. That was my favorite opening ever, I think. It's Mailbag Day tomorrow, and you know what that means. You know what that means. It means you are one day away from having all your personal problems solved. Look in the mirror. That miserable human being that you're looking at will be gone tomorrow if you get your question into the mailbag today. And if I answer it, my answers are guaranteed 100% correct and will change your life on occasion for the better. But in order to get in the mailbag, you have to subscribe to thedailywire.com for a lousy $10 a month. That's what it costs to have all your problems solved. And if you subscribe for the year, it's a lousy $100 a month, and you get the Leftist Tears mug, which alone will solve most of your problems. There will only be a few ancillary problems left over that I will solve in the mailbag when you ask. We have a guest today. We have Connie Lucas of Independent Women's Voice, and I'm going to ask her the question that I think is on every conservative's mind. Are women just no good at being free? Is this like in women? Do you know that if women couldn't vote, this is true. I'm saying this to Jess because, so you don't get the dart in the cheek, But if women hadn't been allowed to vote, there would not have been a Democrat elected, I think, in the last, ever. That is scientific proof of something. It's almost the end of July, I've noticed. this month really went singing by because we had all these problems and troubles with the set and everything. It's just everything goes singing by. But that means that it's almost National Underwear Month. So soon you'll be singing underwear carols underneath the underwear tree. And am I the only one who does that, giving underwear presents to celebrate it actually is, I'm not making this up, it actually is National Underwear Month. And to celebrate National Underwear Month, MeUndies is making it easier than ever to try the world's most comfortable underwear by giving you a risk-free guarantee all through National Underwear Month. If you don't love your MeUndies, they're free. I got to tell you, these things are insanely comfortable. I mean, it really is. They're weird. I mean, it's this material. It's called lensing micromodal, and it actually is softer than cotton. It really is. It's not kidding. It is sustainably sourced, naturally soft fabric. 3 times, they say, softer than fabric. It is taken from Austrian beech trees. Okay, this is. I swear, I'm not making it up. Like, micromodal is taken from Austrian beech trees. It's 3 times softer than cotton, and it naturally inhibits odor. This is why Austrians can sneak up on you so well, because you can't smell them coming because their underwear is so fresh. They really do feel good. And if you go on the website, it's lots of fun. I'm kind of old-fashioned and conservative, so I keep hitting the classic button, and they'll send you stuff that's black and white and gray. But if you hit the, I can't remember what it is, like radical button, then they have all these incredible designs. They have new designs every month, so they're always changing around, and you can do this. And these things are built especially, there's obviously some for men, some for women, though you can get matching colors, not matching underwear, but they're built especially to make you feel comfortable. So all National Underwear Month long, you can feel for yourself that it is risk-free. If you don't love your MeUndies, they're free. Until August 31st, also, you can get 20% off your first pair plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Klaven.
How are you spelling that?
Oh, John, I never would have thought to say Klavan, MeUndies.com/Klaven, MeUndies.com/Klaven, 20% off your first pair. It really is worth trying. I mean, it is a genuinely different experience with much softer material. So, to move from that, to move from the sublime to the unfortunate, we have to talk just a little bit about something because it actually plays into the news of the day. It was this Charlie Gard story. The parents of Charlie Gard, you remember this is a baby who was terribly ill. Basically, the parents said, look, we think we should take this child, our baby, to America, where they have an experimental procedure that'll cure this horrible disease the kid has, which is eating away. The courts said no, held this up so long that when the American doctor was finally allowed by the court to examine the baby, he said, look, it's too late. The procedure will no longer work because the courts held this decision up so long. So here, it's a heartbreaking cut, but is worth watching. Let's listen to Chris Gard, the baby's father, making the announcement that basically they've given up and why they've given up.
There is one simple reason why treatment cannot now go ahead, and that is time. A whole lot of time has been wasted. We are now in July, and our poor boy has been left to just lie in hospital for months without any treatment, whilst lengthy court battles have been fought. Tragically, having had Charlie's medical notes reviewed by independent experts, we now know, had Charlie been given the treatment sooner, he would have had the potential to be a normal, healthy little boy. Despite his condition in January, Charlie's muscles were in pretty good shape and far from showing irreversible, catastrophic structural brain damage. Dr. Hirano and other experts say his brain scans and EEGs were those of a relatively normal child of his age. We knew that ourselves, because as his parents, we knew our son, which is why we continued fighting. Charlie has been left with his illness to deteriorate devastatingly to the point of no return.
So, I mean, obviously, this is England, right? They have the national health. They're so proud of the national health. Rich people, of course, fly out to America to get health care. I was there. I won't say I never used the national health, but whenever I needed something serious, I went and got private health care. I don't know if you remember, I was talking a while back, just a few days ago, about, I think it was in Toronto, where they needed to build some stairs because people kept slipping in this park. And the government put in a bid, got a bid for $65,000 stairs. And a guy went out with some homeless people and built it for $550. And the government, instead of saying, oh, we're ashamed of being the government and trying to get away with charging between $65,000 and $150,000, as I recall, they instead attacked the guy who built the stairs. Now this father whose baby is going to die comes out and says, you know, you wait, it may have been a slim chance, this was our decision, we're the parents, we love this baby, we know this baby, this is our decision to make, you held us up until essentially you eliminated this chance. The High Court, this is the High Court of Justice Family Division, instead of saying, you know, maybe we should reconsider having killed this baby, maybe, you know, not at all. The judge then issues a decision and he says, I think it's my duty to comment briefly on the absurd notion that has appeared in recent days that Charlie has been a prisoner of the National Health Service, or that the National Health Service has the power to decide Charlie's fate. This is the antithesis of the truth. In this country, children have rights independent of their parents. This is a baby we're talking about, right? When you say a baby has rights independent of the parents, other than the right to life, the right not to be tortured or something like that, you're essentially saying that the government has the right to make decisions for the baby, because the baby's not going to be making decisions for himself. He says almost all of the time the decision goes on. Parents make decisions about what is in the best interest of their children, and so it should be. Just occasionally, however, there will be circumstances such as here where a hospital and parents are unable to decide, and it's in the best interest of the parents that we take it to the court. Well, good job, jackass. You know, some people were actually writing me about this because I complained about it before, and they were writing me from England and saying, no, you don't understand. In England, you see, when you put your child in the hospital, he becomes essentially the charge of the doctor, and the doctor has to decide. My answer to that is, remember back in 1776 when we were shooting at you? This is why. You know, this is why we don't want the decisions made from the top down. We want decisions made by the people who love us, by the closest person to us. We want decisions made by family, if not the family, the town, if not the town, the city, if not the city, the state. Only when it has to be made by the federal government do we want it made from some central government. This was a decision, and this is not even a question. We don't even get to the question of the right to life or anything like that. It's a question of who decides, who makes these decisions. The person who loves the baby. And the reason this is so important is because as we speak, the Senate is trying to continue a debate about Obamacare. All they want to do is vote. They have to vote on the bill that they have, but that vote will open up debate. It's just a vote to open up debate, and they're still not sure. I mean, Rand Paul is still posturing on television saying, well, this is that vote to open the debate. Debate it. Let people see you, and they don't want to do it. And Donald Trump, you know, this is the thing. I keep saying Donald Trump has learned stuff. And what I keep saying about Donald Trump is he has learned to do things, but he still has his personality, and his personality is, you know, different. Let's put it that way. It's different than most of the presidents we've had. And the big question is, will his personality get in the way of his learning to become president? Because I do believe he can learn to be a good president. And now, suddenly, finally, he has caught on to what he is supposed to do, which is get out there and sell this bill, hold the Republicans' feet to the fire. So he goes on. Let's just take a quick look at Trump making a speech, the kinds of speeches he should have been making all along, but he's doing it now. He's caught on. This is what a president does. This is cut one.
There is still time to do the right thing. And for Senate Republicans, this is their chance to keep their promise. Over and over again, they said repeal and replace, repeal and replace. But they can now keep their promise to the American people to provide emergency relief to those in desperate need of help and to improve health care for all Americans. To every member of the Senate, I say this: the American people have waited long enough. There's been enough talk and no action. Now is the time for action. We are here to solve problems for the people. Obamacare has broken our health care system. It's broken. It's collapsing. It's gone. And now it is up to us to get great health care for the American people.
This is so he's this is what he should be doing. And you know, of course you can say he should have been doing it all along, but okay, he's a novice. He's learning. At least he's learning. He went to the Boy Scouts. This was my favorite. I love this is Trump when I love him. You know, he went to the Boy Scouts jamboree, and the place is packed. And again he keeps taunting the press. Oh, they're going to say there are 100 people here. They're not going to show the press. You know, they're not going to show the crowds. They're going to show the crowds. CNN tweets the crowd, and the crowd is immense. It's all these Boy Scouts. And there's a gigantic big mockery of Barack Obama, a big Barack Obama mask in the background. It gets on CNN. Would never have gotten on CNN, except Trump just lives in their heads. You know, and they tweet out, "We're not fake news. We're showing the crowd. We're showing the crowd." It was great. It was, and here was my favorite moment. Here he is taunting his old pal.
By the way, just a question. Did President Obama ever come to a jamboree?
And if you can't see, he turns around. He's looking at Rick Perry. He goes, "Where's Obama? Where's Waldo? You know, it's like, where's Obama?" And the Democrats are going nuts. They say, "You shouldn't politicize the Boy Scouts." These are the guys. The reason Obama never went to a jamboree is because they politicized the Boy Scouts with the gay question. You know, the Boy Scouts didn't want to have gays, so the Democrats were just hounding them, trying to defund them. All this stuff, you know, but when Trump does it, suddenly it's wrong. So Trump is in their face. He's fighting back. This is good stuff. All of this is good stuff. And meanwhile, you know, before I go on, and this is really going to get interesting. So you're going to want to come to thedailywire.com and listen to it, because you can no longer use the free video on Facebook or YouTube. We're going back to the Daily Wire. If you subscribe, you can watch the whole show on thedailywire.com and put your questions in the mailbag and have your miserable life transformed. So Trump is doing this, and meanwhile, I mean, not to forget, okay, because I'm going to get to all the Trump drama and craziness in a minute, but meanwhile, while Trump is doing this, the Democrats have become, they've gone full commie. They've got, Chuck Schumer gets up and they've announced their new thing. It's called the Better Deal. It's you know, people attack them because it's such a stupid phrase, it's such a weak phrase, but I guess it's better than the New Deal and better than the deal that the art of the deal would give you, or something like this. And what is the new? First of all, so Chuck Schumer gets up and he says that capitalism is finished. This is number 4.
Old-fashioned capitalism has broken down to the detriment of consumers. Adam Smith has lost his way amidst these big corporations. Large corporations, in too many instances, merge for their own interests, so they, not the consumer, can dictate prices, the quantity and the quality of goods. We're going to fight to allow regulators to break up big companies if they're hurting consumers, and to make it harder for companies to merge if it reduces competition.
Yeah, that's it, Chuck. That's what we need. More regulation. More. It's like, you know, they're acting. You know what's sad? It's just too bad that Democrats weren't in office for the last 8 years. Because if Democrats had had the presidency and had a supermajority for 2 years in Congress, they would have fixed everything. You know, that's what happened. They got nothing done. They were too busy telling us who should use our bathroom, too busy imposing this healthcare system, which is like, it really is like an anchor on the economy. I just want to play one more cut of Schumer so you realize if Donald Trump is as unpopular as the polls keep telling us he is, as the press keeps telling us he is, why are the Democrats suddenly talking exactly like Donald Trump? Okay, let's hear from cut 5. This is Chuck Schumer selling his new plan.
Average families feel they're being pushed around by large economic forces and are losing that traditional American faith in the future. Too many families in America feel like the rules of the economy are rigged against them. They feel like they're getting a raw deal. And they're right. They're almost powerless to change them. We are here today to tell the people of Berryville and the working people of America, someone has your back.
Yeah, that's good. The working people of America, someone has your back. This is the party. This is the party that does nothing but divide people. It does nothing but say, "Oh, the blacks against the whites, the straights against the gays. Oh, if you're this, you're oppressed." And the people who have been their traditional villain, the white male, the working class guy who goes to work, does his job, maybe thinks that like the old-fashioned ways are better than their newfangled ideas, and he's the guy they have been targeting. Guys clinging to his Bible and his guns. They had the government for 8 years. These radicals, these communists, these socialists, they had the government for 8 years. What we are living in now is Obama's America. We are still living in Obama's America. And that is why it's so important that Trump gets this right. And he's been doing this other thing at the same time where he has been tweeting about Jeff Sessions. And again, this has nothing to do whether if you like Jeff Sessions. Obviously, Trump is really upset that Sessions recused himself in this from this Russian investigation. And you know what? I don't blame Trump for being upset. I think this Russian investigation is nonsense. It doesn't mean that there wasn't a meeting here that shouldn't have taken place. It doesn't mean that there wasn't a conversation. What it means is the narrative that they're wrapping that all in. The Democrats have done so much more with the Russians, even with Russian disinformation that they were getting from that Fusion GPS that was gotten by a Hillary donor. That was false information that they were using and spreading around and getting James Comey to start an investigation using that disinformation. All that stuff that they were doing, that's completely forgotten. Unmasking people in classified phone conversations, completely forgotten. It's just any meeting they had. They've got Kushner, Jared Kushner, is now, yesterday I think he was at the Senate Intel Committee. He was meeting staff, and today he is with the House Intel Committee, actually meeting with the congressman, answering questions. Remember, he was in on that meeting with Donald Trump Jr. where they talked to the lawyer and nothing happened, and it was such a big story because nothing happened. And when nothing happens, that has got to lead the news. And Kushner kind of came out and blew it away. He gave an 11-page statement. He said he was in the meeting for 10 minutes, and he texted somebody, his assistant, to call him, get him out of the meeting, which I thought, you should remember that next time you're talking to Jared Kushner. If he gets a phone call, he's bored. He's just tired. But here he comes out and makes a statement. And very rare for him to say anything at all, but here he is.
Let me be very clear. I did not collude with Russia, nor do I know of anyone else in the campaign who did so. I had no improper contacts. I have not relied on Russian funds for my businesses. And I have been fully transparent in providing all requested information. Donald Trump had a better message and ran a smarter campaign, and that is why he won. Suggesting otherwise ridicules those who voted for him.
See, that's such a good point, because what he's saying is everything that they have done to suggest that this was a Russian, invasion of America is attacking the people who went to the polls. All those people that Chuck Schumer's trying to win back, all those former working class Democrats who voted for Trump, they're the people who they're saying when you call them deplorables, that's who you're talking to. When you say that they were fooled by the Russians, that's who you're talking to. It's a really, really good point. If Trump could just stay on point. So I don't blame Trump for being upset, but he's going after Jeff Sessions, his oldest friend, his oldest ally, the guy who really gave him the idea of the wall and going after immigration, who supported him in that. And he starts tweeting against him angrily and just kind of humiliating him in public. It's no way to treat somebody. First of all, it's no way to treat a friend. I mean, you call a guy in, talk to him, or whatever you want to do, send him a message through an intermediary. You don't go out on Twitter and go after your pals. That is not what you do. And so here is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Just before I play this, I just have to say, there is a guy, let me see if I can find this. There was a guy who called, here it is, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. He called her, this is at the Daily Beast, this left-wing thing. This guy, Ira Madison III, he called her a butch queen, and he said, as she went in front of the press, he said, it's her first time in drag at the ball. And this, if a right-wing guy did that, he would be pilloried, and rightly so. It's just disgusting. Anyway, she comes on Fox and Friends, and they ask her basically, is Trump going to fire Jeff Sessions?
Look, I know that he is certainly frustrated and disappointed in the Attorney General for recusing himself. But as we've said, I think that's a decision that if the president wants to make, he certainly will. And he's continuing to move forward and focus on other things. But that frustration certainly hasn't gone away. And, I don't think it will. But given the fact that the president is being attacked unnecessarily and certainly for no reason on something that I think he and most of America feel is a complete hoax, and that the media has gotten so spun up in Russia fever, we're looking to move on, and it makes it really hard when every single day the media spends 15 times as much time talking about Russia as they do the issues that Americans care about. There was a poll in the Wall Street Journal just last week that said the top 3 issues that Americans care about are healthcare, immigration, and jobs. And the top 3 issues that the press covers is Russia, Russia, and more Russia.
I get it. I do get it. But it's like, I don't want any Charlie guards in this country. I do not want any Charlie guards in this country. Not one. Not one. I do not want the government deciding who lives and who dies, because they're just no good at it. They're no better at that than they are at building a stair in the park. Okay? And so all I'm saying about Trump is focus, dude. The guy could be good at being president. He has the skills to be president. Don't let the senators, don't let the GOP say, oh, well, we were too distracted. Don't let the press focus on something else. Keep the focus on these guys and get that health care bill up for debate. It really is what I think the Donald has to do, and it has nothing to do with right or wrong here. This is politics. We're talking pure politics, getting stuff done. All right, let us bring on our guest. I'm sorry I kept her waiting. Carrie Lucas, the Vice President of Policy and Economics at the independent Woman's Voice. Her work has appeared everywhere: Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, USA Today, and the thing that endears her to me more than anything else, she is the author of The Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism, which I should have bound in leather and put on my shelf. You can find her on Twitter at Carrie Lucas, CarrieLukas. Carrie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. First of all, tell me what the Independent Women's Voice does exactly.
Well, we're an educational organization, and we try to represent what we consider mainstream American women. It's interesting hearing you talk about the list of issues that people care about. It's so important that people recognize that that's what women care about too. So often when you hear the average women's group, makes it sound as though women only care about reproduction or childcare issues, where we know that women are most concerned about things like the economy, getting our healthcare system right, national security, and so those are the where we spend our energies too.
So it's almost as if you're saying that women are people, almost like.
I know, controversial.
So let me ask you this. I was on Fox once on their morning show, and I said, I asked the question, why is NOW, the National Organization of Women, why is it a left-wing group? If it represents women, there are right-wing and left-wing women. Why has the left been able to co-opt the question of what's good for women?
Yeah, they've been so successful, and I don't know how we've allowed them to get away with it. I actually think that's something that conservatives should grapple with and say, we need to take this topic a lot more seriously. For so long, we've allowed, the women's studies programs. You think of what happens kind of in our popular culture and on college campuses. Really left-leaning women have absolutely dominated and been able to control the conversation about women in public policy. And that's a real shame, because you're right. Women, the last election, you often hear this idea that women vote overwhelmingly for Democrats. And while, yes, there's a wage gap, it was pretty small. It's nothing. It's not nearly as expansive as people would have you believe. It was four out of every 10 voters, female voters, voted for Trump in the last election. That still means Republicans have some work to do, but it still shows there's a lot of women out there who are open to that message. We'll be a lot more open to that message if Republicans focused on reaching out to women in ways that resonate with them.
Well, as a right winger, I have a lot of friends who are certifiably insane, and they are constantly sending me things about YouTube videos, women can't do freedom. Women don't want freedom. They threw out the men who took care of them. Now they want the man, capital T, capital M, to take care of them. And nobody ever dares to ask this question. So I'm going to ask, is this a problem? I mean, women seem, as you say, they're not totally in the pocket of the Democrat Party, but the Democrats have been very successful in co-opting their issues. Is there something about women that just doesn't want to, that will not support the idea of being free and individualism?
You know, I don't think it needs to be that way. You know, it's interesting. I think, you know, I'm a libertarian type of girl. Clearly what resonated with me when I was young was this idea of freedom and independence, and a lot of the messages that are considered more, you know, that tend to attract more guys worked with me. But I think what we're increasingly learning and what research shows is that a lot of women are open to the idea of conservative ideas of free markets and limited government when you talk to them about it in ways that make sense to them. You know, women we have some different concerns than men. Women are more likely to be taking care of kids. You know, women are more likely to face issues like poverty and be worried about healthcare access. But I think that what Republicans and what conservatives should feel good about is say, we have a great story to tell. You know, we should be, I think that the reason why women should support conservatism is that we do a better job at giving opportunities for those in poverty. We have better solutions for making sure our healthcare system is there for people who need it, and our education system provides the skills that people, particularly those at the bottom, are going to need to get into the economy. But so often, I think, you know, when you talk about things like tax reform or Social Security or budgets, you be talking language that the guys that work with guys, things like, you know, we want 4% economic growth. Well, you know, that's not going to convince many women, but talk about how it's going to help families and how it's going to make the system work better for people like them. We can win them over. We just have to be smart about it.
You know, I couldn't help. I wanted to cut that. Remember the video, The Life of Julia, that the Obama administration put out? I wanted to bring a little bit of that in and play it. But, you know, they've made it impossible to find. They've removed it as well they should. It was an embarrassment. But just to remind people, it showed Obama advertising, essentially, that under Obama, women would be taken care of from cradle to grave. If your organization, if the Independent Women's Voice made a Life of Julia, what would it look like? What are you offering to women through freedom that trumps what Obama was offering?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the conversations to begin with all the failures out there in the Life of Julia, because you're right, this idea that the government can take care of you every step of the way and provide this like wonderful childcare system that's going to help your kids, and then you can go to the public schools and you can get a loan and go. This whole idea that government's going to take care of you and support you. That's, you know, even if that is tempting to women, people should remember that like government does an awfully bad job at a lot of this. You know why you don't want government to run your child care system and private and pre-K schools? It's because they're not doing a very good job with the kids that they have from ages 5 to 12. You know, when we look at things like our healthcare system, you know, government makes a lot of big promises, but then, you know, if you're in Medicaid, a lot of people out there would be saying, you know, I still can't get a doctor's appointment. It's still not helping me get the care I need. So I think that first we need to remind people that, you know, government may promise to take care of you, but it does a really bad job at it. You know, it does a better job. If you look at the things that work in America and the ways we've made progress, it's in the private enterprise. It's through that market-based exchanges where things are getting better, where education and kind of information is becoming. You have better ways to educate your kids. It's not really, the public schools haven't been changing and improving, but there's a whole lot of other things that are. So I think we can kind of explain that those markets, there are these solutions. And then, you know, I'm not, I don't think that we should be out there saying that there's no role for a safety net, because I think there is. And I think we can make sure that the safety net is doing what it needs to do. And that's helping people who actually need it, instead of trying to put, you know, the vast majority of American on food stamps. You know, that's not good news. That's terrible news. And we shouldn't all want everybody to be on Medicaid. We should be trying to get people into a private health insurance system, which does much better. All studies show that private health insurance serves people better than places like Medicaid. That's why we want to reform Medicaid and get people off Medicaid so they have something better.
I agree, and I agree with you about the safety net. That it's not like we're trying to get rid of every possible aid that government can give. It's just we don't want them running people's lives, so you need as little of it as possible, basically. I know you're a nonpartisan organization. Independent Women's Voice is a nonpartisan organization, but you're looking now at a big change we've had. Obviously, this election has turned everything topsy-turvy. Are you hopeful? Are you feeling good about where we're going right now, or are you still kind of
certainly
nervous?
I'm feeling certainly we're feeling better. There's a lot of opportunities out there when it comes to something like healthcare reform. It's very easy to be frustrated and to be thinking, oh, why can't we just get this repeal done? It seemed kind of incredible, but man, it's a much better conversation and a better problem to have than had we been sitting here with Hillary Clinton moving us further and further down the line towards a single payer system. So obviously I'm frustrated. I wish that the progress was faster. I hope that we can move on tax reform. Right now the Trump administration is talking about rolling back a whole lot of regulations and kind of behind the scenes undoing a lot of the damage that the Obama administration did in terms of making our labor markets less flexible. There was a lot of things that the Obama administration that was doing behind the scenes, which was really killing jobs and kind of making our workforce a lot less flexible. That was terrible news for women. The energy policies that Obama administration was putting together, through executive fiat, that was terrible news for our economy. It was terrible news for family. And the Trump administration is succeeding in rolling some of that back. So yeah, there's a lot of frustrations, and I want our guys and anybody who believes in limited government, whether you consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat or somewhere in between, I think we need to do more and focus on that. But boy, it's a much better place than it could have been, It
is funny, just as we're having this conversation, I'm just reflecting on the fact that I almost never hear people who specifically represent women having conversations like this on TV. It's always about sex. It's always about reproductive rights. It's always about abortion and things like this. And it is, I can see why that seizes the news, why that colonizes the news. But it really is a shame because obviously, as we say, women have a lot more concerns than just that, and just like everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a saying we often say at our organization that all issues are women's issues. And it really is unfair to make it sound as though it's frankly kind of, it's a little insulting and sexist.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, when, Nancy Pelosi comes out and says, oh, this is our agenda for women and it's all about childcare. Well, you know what? Yeah, childcare is important to me. It's also important to my husband. But what's more, it's just as important to me. It's things like our tax policy and healthcare reform. It's just funny how, and I think that the left can be really guilty of kind of trying to pigeonhole women as if that's all we care about.
Where can people find you and your organization?
Well, please come to the Independent Women's Voice at iwvoice.org online. We also have another organization, Independent Women's Forum, and there's lots of information up there at iwf.org. We're on Facebook, and come find us on Twitter, and we have a lot of information about all these topics. We really appreciate people stopping by.
Well, thanks for coming on, Carrie. It's been really nice talking to you. Really interesting. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, that is different, It is amazing when you think about it. It's amazing when you think about it how entirely the left has relegated women's issues to their bodies. It's kind of bizarre when you think about it that feminists must be like, they must just call the dumbest women in America and get them to be feminists. That's the only thing I can think of. I just do not see where any of the, it's funny, very quickly, when women wanted to enter the workforce, and they're talking way long ago, back in the 70s and 80s, that kind of opened up. People sort of, look, corporations don't care who they hire ultimately. They want more workers. They can pay people less. One of the reasons I think wages have stagnated is because the workforce has doubled or the potential workforce has doubled with the entry of women. But, I just think feminists have been utterly destructive. I do not think there is a good thing I can say about them, except where the circle of feminism intersects with the circle of individualism. That little sliver there, I think, is where feminism, I agree with it, because I think people should be able to do whatever they want, no matter what they are. All right, stuff I like. This is a complicated one. I have enough time. I'm going to talk about this. This is a genuine, I wanted to talk about this. Yesterday we were talking about Dunkirk, which I thought was a good movie. Didn't think it was a great movie, but I thought it was good. And I was thinking about the fact that I went to look, I kind of considered just doing a whole stuff I like about war films and war books, but I've done that before. And one of the things that I find so fascinating about war is that war has changed, obviously, since the days of Achilles, where Achilles must have been this great athlete, right? He runs out there with a sword. He's fighting a million. You know how tired you would get if you were wielding a sword for more than 3 minutes? I mean, swords were light in the old days. They were much lighter than people think they were. But even so, let's say it was 5 pounds, swinging a 5-pound weight around. while people are running at you with other swords trying to kill you, is very exhausting. That's why when I see women doing it in the movies, I kind of roll my eyes, because I don't think it would be easy for a man. I mean, I think the men who fought in those days must have been incredibly fit and in incredibly good shape. And obviously, war changed with the invention of gunpowder, changed further with the invention of like rapid fire weapons, and the glory went out of war to some degree. The courage that it took to enter war and the glory that you got from making that decision remains. But the glory of the fight, that old fashioned like one man against another wielding swords, is gone, because the modern warfare is utter chaos. When you see, obviously the opening of Saving Private Ryan was kind of the cinematic version where that became reality. Just utter chaos, utter death all around. And really, if you watch that Restrepo, I think it was called, that documentary, you see that just the confusion and the terror of it all. So the glory of war, and it is glorious that people sacrifice themselves to defend our freedom, defend our country. That is a glorious thing. But the whole idea of glory and honor and combat and physical courage has changed and mutated. And so I want to recommend a very strange, bizarre story. It's kind of an intellectual story. It's not for everybody, by Jorge Luis Borges. And Borges is, I believe he was Argentinian. Was he? He was Argentinian, yes. And he wrote in Spanish. And he wrote mostly short stories. He wrote 2 famous volumes of short stories. A conservative, by the way. He died in 1986, and he was became pals with William F. Buckley. There's a famous interview with Buckley and Borges talking, and he wrote these incredible exercises in intellectual experimentation. So he would write about an endless library, what it would be like to live in an endless library. But he has this one story that I've always loved called Pierre Menard, author of Don Quixote, author of the Quixote, which is what they call it in Spanish. Okay? And the idea is Pierre Menard is a more or less modern writer who sets as his task to rewrite Don Quixote word for word. And the idea is that if you rewrote Don Quixote word for word, it would be an entirely different book, because it wouldn't be written by the same person. It wouldn't be read in the same time. It wouldn't be read in the same context. And he has, part of it is just hilarious. So it'll compare parts of the original Don Quixote to Pierre Menard's Don Quixote. So it says, it's a revelation to compare the Don Quixote of Pierre Menard with that of Miguel de Cervantes. Cervantes wrote the following: truth, whose mother is history, rival of time, depository of deeds, witness of the past, exemplar and advisor to the present, and the future's counselor. And then Borges says, this catalog of attributes written in the 17th century and written by the ingenious layman Miguel de Cervantes is mere rhetorical praise of history. Menard, on the other hand, writes, truth, whose mother is history, rival of time, depository of deeds, witness of the past, exemplar and advisor to the present, and the future's counselor. History, the mother of truth. The idea is staggering. Menard, a contemporary of William James, defines history not as delving into reality, but as the very font of reality. So everything changes because it's written in a different time, the same word, same exact words, and it's comical in this kind of high intellectual way. The only reason this came to mind was we are obviously in a crisis of ideas. When I say a crisis, I don't mean crisis like the building is falling down. I mean a turning point, a point when something, a tipping point, when something is going to change. Obviously, it's not just the election of Donald Trump. It's the 8 years of this radical Obama that came before, the fact that we have an actual party, a major political party that seems to have abandoned the basics of freedom, the basics of capitalism, the fact that we have another party on the right, the Republican Party, that is in disarray, that is at war with itself. And there are a lot of very deep ideas underlying this division that I'd like to talk about, but I don't have time to talk about now. But I'll come back and talk about it again. But the thing is, the conservatism that comes out of this is not going to be the conservatism of the past, even if it has a lot of the same ideas, because it's going to look entirely different in the context of the modern world, in the context of technology, in the context of sexual freedom, in the context of mixed races, of the white race becoming less of a dominant force and other races becoming part of it. Everything is going to be different, and conservatism is going to have to accept that in order to be the same, it will have to be different, because if it remains the same, it will be different in ways that we don't particularly like. And that, in some ways, is part of the message of this wonderful Borges story. If you like intellectual experimentation, Jorge Luis Borges, one of the great, great writers of the 20th century, and one of us. All right, tomorrow, the mailbag. Get your questions in. Yeah, come on, do it, do it. You got to subscribe for a lousy $10 a month. If you subscribe for the year, you get the Leftist Tears mug, which will solve some of your problems. The mailbag will solve the rest. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. See you tomorrow.
Richard Dawkins is no friend to conservatives. The atheist author has spent much of his life deriding Judaism and Christianity. He once said that an atheist is, quote, just somebody who feels about Yahweh the way any decent Christian feels about Thor or Baal or the golden calf. Dawkins says that even moderate religious people, quote, make the world safe for extremists. He's far to the left on politics. He's pro-abortion, a supporter of the Labour Party and Liberal Democratic Party in Britain. But he is also smart enough to recognize that radical Islam is a greater threat to human life than Christianity or Judaism. Dawkins explains, quote, I have criticized the appalling misogyny and homophobia of Islam. I have criticized the murdering of apostates for no crime other than their disbelief. Muslims themselves are the prime victims of the oppressive cruelties of Islamism. Such language, of course, makes him a pariah among leftists. This week, Dawkins was scheduled to speak at an event with KPFA in Berkeley, California. All went swimmingly, until leftists realized Dawkins had said some untoward things about Islam. Then they canceled the speech, citing his quote-unquote abusive speech. They explained, quote, we had booked this event based entirely on his excellent new book on science when we didn't know he had offended and hurt in his tweets and other comments on Islam so many people. KPFA does not endorse hurtful speech. This is no shock. The same left that barred Dawkins from his Berkeley event cheered this week while Palestinian Arabs riot over metal detectors at the Temple Mount. Those leftists proclaim that the true obstacle to peace in the Middle East isn't Palestinian-Arab violence, it isn't Palestinians who stab Israeli Druze police officers on the Temple Mount, or Palestinians who invade homes and slaughter old men and women, or the Palestinians in government who cheer, honor, and financially support such behavior. Nope. The problem is the Jews. The same left that blames metal detectors for murderous assaults and Richard Dawkins for offending Islam makes excuses for radical Muslim and Women's March organizer Linda Sarsour, who has called for apostate Muslims to have their genitals removed, who says that Zionists cannot be feminists, and who stands up for terrorists and terror supporters. So, why does the left seek to support radical Islam so ardently? Well, because the left believes that the quickest way to destroy Western civilization is no longer class warfare, but multicultural warfare. Simply ally with groups that hate the prevailing system and work with them to take it down. Then the left will build on the ashes of the old system. In this view, Dawkins is an opponent. How can the left recruit Muslims to fight the same system if Dawkins is busy alienating them? They support the Palestinian terror regime. How can that colonialist outpost, Israel, be defeated without a little blood? They applaud Sarsour. She's an ally, so that means she must be backed. Alliance with nefarious forces calls your own morality into question. KPFA has a lot more to answer for than Dawkins. But the left will never have to answer such questions so long as they focus in on their common enemy, a supposedly conservative establishment that must be fought with any tool at their disposal. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about in Trumpville today. So President Trump is obviously attacking Attorney General Sessions. Sessions is saying that he is not going to go without being pushed out the door. We'll talk about what that means. Plus, the Senate Republicans are finally going to vote on some form of Trump care. We don't know exactly what that is yet, but it appears that the vote to proceed on some form of Obamacare change is going to happen. So we'll talk about that as well. Democrats in confusion. Plus, Trump talks to a bunch of children at the Boy Scouts, and it goes weird. We'll talk about all those things. But before we do that, first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Legacy Box. So this is a business that I think is a must-use for anybody who wants to preserve their memories. So I'm very big into preserving memories, family memories. I'm very into assuring that our family photos stay, ensuring that our family photos are preserved, and that our tapes are preserved, and that our videos are preserved, so we can watch them later. Well, that's exactly what Legacy Box does. And we're not just talking about digital stuff. We're talking about the stuff that you have in your garage right now. We are talking about all those old stacks and boxes of photos and film reels. You take them, you put them in a box, you send it to Legacy Box. Legacy Box gives you labels that you put on each item so you know where they are in the process, and then Legacy Box takes all that stuff and they weave it into one DVD or a set of DVDs or onto a thumb drive, and they send it back to you so it's ready to use and ready to play. And so if there's a fire in your house or a flood, you don't have to worry about all of the memories that are going to be destroyed. That's exactly what Legacy Box is for. Over 250,000 families have used them. Terrific people. Go to legacybox.com/Ben. You get a 40% discount on your order. That's legacybox.com/Ben. And again, you get that 40% discount, legacybox.com/Ben. You know, as somebody who has grandparents who are getting up there, it'd be tragic if their memories were lost for all time. It'd be tragic if you don't preserve the memories of your grandparents, your parents, your own family. That's what Legacy Box is for. Legacybox.com/Ben. 40% off right now when you use that /Ben. Plus, that lets them know that we sent you. Okay, so President Trump is very, very, very angry at Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He has decided to make Jeff Sessions the focus of his ire. Why? Well, not because Jeff Sessions is doing a terrible job. In fact, by most accounts, he's doing a pretty good job, particularly on immigration. If there's anything that can be said about Jeff Sessions, is that he's too ardent with regard to the civil forfeiture, the attempt to grab property after an arrest but before a conviction. Right? There he's wrong. But on everything else, Jeff Sessions has been doing a pretty good job as Attorney General. I haven't seen any problems with Jeff Sessions. But Trump sees one big problem, and that is Attorney General Sessions obviously has not done enough to protect Donald Trump. Trump has gotten to the point where he is starting to see everything in terms of how it affects him personally. Not his presidency, him personally. And so this morning he unleashed a series of nasty tweets about Jeff Sessions. So he tweeted, quote, Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump campaign, quietly working to boost Clinton. So where is the investigation, AG? And then he said, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has taken a very weak position on Hillary Clinton crimes. Where are emails and DNC server and intel leakers? And then he said, problem is that the acting head of the FBI and the person in charge of the Hillary investigation, Andrew McCabe, got $700,000 from Hillary for life. So now he's attacking the deputy attorney general, the acting head of the FBI. So just to put this all in perspective, in the first 6 months of the Trump administration, he's fired Mike Flynn, supposedly for lying to Vice President Pence. That's not really why that happened. He's fired the FBI Director James Comey and said openly that it's because of Comey's handling of the Russian stuff. He is now threatening Attorney General Sessions. He has threatened his Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein in that New York Times interview last week. He has attacked the acting head of the FBI, and he has attacked the special counsel. So what do all these people have in common? They're all involved in the Russia investigation. All the people who he's capped or has said that he wants to cap, he has now put to the side. They're all involved in the Russia investigation, which says one of two things. Either that Trump is a narcissist when it comes to this Russia thing. He's really bothered by it. It bothers him in a significant way, and he just wants to end it by getting rid of anyone who has failed to shut it down or who continues to pursue it, or he has something to hide. Right? Those are really the only two choices. There is no choice three. So either this is pathological narcissism or this is Trump has something to hide. Now, I tend to believe it's pathological narcissism. And again, I've said before, my entire theory here is that Trump really hasn't done anything wrong, and he's ticked that everybody isn't just stopping this nonsense already, and so he wants to fire everyone. But let's be straight about Jeff Sessions here, okay? Jeff Sessions is not responsible for this. Jeff Sessions only recused himself because in his own testimony, he said that he never had a meeting with Russians. It turned out he'd had a meeting with Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, so he recused himself. That happened long after he was nominated and approved for the position, the actual recusal, and there's no way for him to know that this stuff was really going to come up, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. Plus, Jeff Sessions is the lifeline. He is the hard wiring into the nationalist populist movement that Trump likes to talk so much about and from which he draws his support. Sessions is the font head for the anti-immigration movement that Trump supposedly represents. So this doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. So there are a few things that I want to say about all of this. First of all, Anthony Scaramucci, the new chief of staff, he's not chief of staff yet, but he may well be, the head of communications for Donald Trump. He was on Hugh Hewitt's show this morning, and he basically said, yes, Trump wants Jeff Sessions to resign. Here's what the mooch had to say.
The president's been tweeting this morning. I'm sure you're aware of that. Yes. Why not just fire Jeff Sessions?
Well, listen, I mean, you know, I think the president has a certain style, a certain skill set. He's obviously frustrated. I said yesterday, I think to Sarah Murray, maybe the two of them to get together. My guess is the president doesn't want to do that. And so I think I think him and Attorney General Sessions need to work this thing out.
It's clear the president wants him gone. I have an enormous amount of respect for the Attorney General. But I do know the president pretty well, and if there's this level of tension in the relationship that's public, You're probably right, but I don't want to speak for the president on that because he's a cabinet official, and I sort of think that has to be between the president of the United States and the cabinet official.
So Scaramucci says, I don't know what he's going to do, but yeah, he sort of should go. So there are a bunch of questions here. Number one is why Trump doesn't just fire him. There's a rumor today that Trump was doing this just because this is what Trump does, meaning that he got rid of Comey in the most humiliating way possible. He fired him while he was on the West Coast speaking to a bunch of FBI cadets, and then he saw it on TV. So now he's doing the same thing to Jeff Sessions. Again, the problem here is that Sessions himself is pretty popular with the right wing of the Republican Party, especially because of immigration issues, and that reputation is well-deserved. So let's talk about some of the problems here. Number one, President Tough Guy McBallsy over here, if he's going to fire Sessions, he should just fire Sessions. So he made his entire career on I'm going to fire people, but instead he's giving Sessions the runaround. Why? Because he wants Sessions to resign. He wants Sessions to do it on his own. He doesn't want to fire Sessions because for some reason Trump thinks that if he openly pressures Sessions to quit and then Sessions quit, the blowback won't come back to Trump. That somehow Sessions will be blamed for that. I don't know where he's getting that idea, but it's foolish. If Sessions quits at this point, no one's going to blame him. Everybody's going to blame Trump. Second point, this is a very dangerous precedent that's being set by the Trump White House, and that is that if you are not obsequious enough to President Trump, or if you don't spend your entire career capital trying to support President Trump in every single way, then he should throw you out. Scaramucci said something else in this Hewitt interview. He said, yeah, Eric Holder acted as a goalie for President Obama. We need somebody who's going to act as a goalie for President Trump. Okay, that's really not the job of the Attorney General, and just because Eric Holder did the wrong thing doesn't mean that Jeff Sessions should either. Scaramucci, of all people, shouldn't be talking about this, considering he tweeted just a few months ago that he was in favor of Sessions recusing himself. But this kind of nasty tenor that's come to the Trump White House, which is, if you don't scrape and bow before Trump obsequiously enough, then he's going to behead you, Joffrey style. Really, really unpleasant, right? Sean Spicer wasn't just ousted, he was humiliated. Trump refused to take him on that tour of the Vatican, even though Spicer's a lifelong Catholic, very ardent Catholic, and wanted to meet the Pope, and Trump left him behind. Yesterday, Trump was speaking to the Boy Scouts. He brought virtually all of the Eagle Scouts in his administration to this event. He left Jeff Sessions at home. Okay, third point here, Trump right now is supposed to be pushing healthcare, and we'll talk about Trump pushing healthcare in just a minute. Immediately after he tweeted all this stuff about Jeff Sessions, he fired off a bunch of tweets. He tweeted, big day for healthcare after 7 years of talking. We will soon see whether or not Republicans are willing to step up to the plate. Obamacare is torturing the American people, etc., etc. Well, that should be the entire messaging of the day, should it not? And that way, when the Senate votes, as it did, I believe, to proceed, on a motion to proceed on some form of Trump care bill, then he can claim victory. He can say, look, it was me, right? Instead, all the headlines today are going to be about Jeff Sessions, and that is Trump's own fault. That is Trump's own fault, and there's no way to escape that. Okay, another point here, and this is the big one, I think, and the reason that you're seeing a split among conservatives about Trump doing this stuff. Like, there wasn't a big split among conservatives about Trump firing Comey. I said that Trump should have fired Comey. I was fine with Trump firing Comey. I just thought that his excuse for doing so was stupid and problematic. But firing Comey itself, I didn't see any problem with. Firing Sessions, a lot of people, including Breitbart, which has been a cheerleader for Trump all the way through, Britt Hume, who really likes Trump on Fox News, all the people on the right are now saying Sessions is a bridge too far. There's a reason for this. And the reason for that is that Jeff Sessions is a deeply conservative guy when it comes to immigration. So, story time. Okay, a few years back, I think it was about 3 years ago, there was a Horowitz Freedom Center event. And this Horowitz Freedom Center event essentially included a dinner. And after the dinner, there was a late night drinking session. It was basically a bunch of people hanging around. By the end of the night, the only people who were hanging around were me and Jeff Sessions and a bunch of me, Jeff Sessions, Stephen Miller, and Coulter. That was the entire drinking session. Right? It was 4 of us, and we were sitting around. The only topic that was discussed the entire evening was immigration, and it was very clear that this was the working group for what would become the Trump administration. In fact, later, Steve Bannon, my former boss over at Breitbart, would apparently commission a white paper in 2015 from Coulter and Miller at that time was an aide to Sessions, for an immigration policy. And so a lot of the ideas that made Trump president, a lot of the immigration ideas that made Trump president came directly from Jeff Sessions. In fact, Jeff Sessions said to me at the time, at this dinner, he said that he was looking for a candidate to support in the Republican race who would embrace his immigration program. Trump was that man. In fact, Sessions was one of the first people on board with this whole thing. Sessions is one of the first people to endorse Trump, right? Much earlier than anybody else. And now Trump is turning around crapping all over him because he doesn't like what he's doing on Russia. What's happening right now is basically everybody who wants policy inside the Trump administration is being sidelined in favor of people who show personal loyalty to Trump. So, Spicer, who wants policy, out. Reince, who wants policy sidelined. Bannon, who wants policy sidelined. Sessions, who wants policy sidelined. Right? All the people who actually want conservative policy currently are being sidelined in favor of Jared and Ivanka, personal loyalty to Trump, Scaramucci, personal loyalty to Trump, Gary Cohn, personal loyalty to Trump. A lot of people who are really Democrats who have a lot of personal loyalty to Trump, and Trump is surrounding himself with those people. Getting rid of Sessions would be a disaster area because that basically means the only person he's going to appoint as Attorney General is somebody who's going to vow to fire to him, who's going to vow to fire the special counsel. If the special counsel is fired, you're going to see all hell break loose in Washington, D.C. It doesn't mean impeachment, at least not right now. It does mean that you're going to see a lot of kickback from Senate Republicans and Trump's agenda completely stalls. Final point on the Sessions thing, and then I want to talk about some other topics. President Trump, in this tweet storm about Sessions, once again, he uses Hillary Clinton as his excuse. I grow tired and weary of this routine. Okay, Hillary Clinton was vanquished by President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for that. We don't have Hillary Clinton as our president, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. Now, she's gone. Stop it. Enough. Okay, she's not important anymore. Okay, the fact is that you're not angry with Jeff Sessions because of Hillary Clinton. Just like you weren't angry at FBI Director Comey over Hillary Clinton. This is all just red meat for rubes, okay? People who believe that President Trump is actually angry at Jeff Sessions over Hillary Clinton, that's nonsense, okay? It was President Trump who instructed Jeff Sessions and everybody who's investigating to leave the Clinton family alone back in December. This is public. Okay, there was no secret about this. So this notion that he just throws out Hillary Clinton's name and we're all supposed to just bow before his wishes, it's really silly, okay? Hillary has nothing to do with this. Hillary may well deserve to be prosecuted. I'd be fine with prosecuting Hillary Clinton, although it'd be very difficult now that Trump has basically tainted the entire jury pool of the United States. But, you know, I'm fine with that. But to pretend that that's what this Sessions thing is about, that is just an excuse. Everybody knows that the real thing that's happening here is he's ticked that Sessions won't act as his shield on Russia, and so he's acting out against Sessions. This is a pretty stark litmus test for a lot of conservatives. Are you going to stand with the president getting rid of an actual conservative on his key issue, immigration, inside his cabinet for no reason other than personal pique? There is no other reason. It's just he's mad, okay? Are you going to stand with that because Trump, 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 Trump? Or are you going to say, Mr. President, you want to get good policy done? We do too. You want to see this Russia investigation thing come to a good close? We do too. You can't fire the Attorney General who helped get you there and who has been the stalwart on the key issue in your campaign. Again, this is not me saying this alone, okay? This is even his greatest allies, like Breitbart, are saying this sort of thing. So, you know, this is not anything new. But again, I think that it goes to a character problem that Trump has, and that is that he's so ensconced in his own narcissism. He's so pathologically narcissistic that he's willing to fire even the people who are his friends. Right? The only friends he has left are family at this point, and that's really not a good way to run the operation. Sessions, for his own sake, he says, I'm not leaving. He says, if Trump wants to fire me, he's going to have to fire me, which, by the way, is a good conservative move. Okay, if Trump wants to own this, let Trump own it. Don't let him off the hook. Make Trump fire Jeff Sessions. We need Jeff Sessions in place, not for civil asset forfeiture, but we need Jeff Sessions in place for immigration. We need Jeff Sessions in place for application of the law. We need him in place to strengthen the police. There are 1,000 reasons that Jeff Sessions at AG is a good thing for the conservative movement, but you know, him being forced out by Trump is just a disaster. Okay, so I want to talk about Trump at the Boy Scouts, which is actually more hilarious than it was upsetting. The left is very upset about this. I want to talk about why I was laughing at it, but first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Mack Weldon. So, Mack Weldon is better than whatever you are wearing right now. They make undergarments, they make underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, sweatpants, all the comfort wear that you actually spend most of your life in when you're not at the office, and even when you're at the office, considering underwear and socks. That's what Mack Weldon puts you in, and it is just high-quality stuff. They have a line of silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial, meaning they eliminate odor, and they want you to be comfortable, so if you don't like your first pair, you can keep it, and they'll still refund you, no question asked. They look good. They perform well, too. One of my pet peeves about underwear is that underwear wears out incredibly quickly, and depending on how many times you put it through the wash. I've had Mack Weldon underwear, pairs of Mack Weldon underwear for months now, and they are exactly the same as when I bought them new. They are just fantastic. Mack Weldon, check it out, MackWeldon.com, and get 20% off your order using promo code Shapiro. That's SHAPIRO. Mack Weldon is spelled MackWeldon. MackWeldon.com. Get 20% off using that promo code Shapiro. Again, the best stuff, the best underwear, the best socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, sweatpants in the business. Go ahead and check them out and use promo code Shapiro so that they know that we sent you. All right, so when Trump isn't busy trying to fire his attorney general for no apparent reason, Trump is speaking with the Boy Scouts. But I want to get to that in just a second. First, I want to discuss what's happening on the floor of the Senate. So the latest on the floor of the Senate is that the Senate is going to vote on a motion to proceed on something. We don't know what that something is. We don't know what exactly it's supposed to be. We do know that that there's a good shot that 51 senators are going to vote in favor of some sort of thing, right? They're going to vote in favor of some sort of thing. So there's two things that have to happen. One, 51 senators have to vote on a motion to proceed. That means that they will take up the House version of Obamacare replacement, and then you actually have to pass a bill. So the key vote is this one, because once you get past that, then it's just a question of hashing out the details. Now, it could still fall apart. It could be the details suck. We don't know the answer to that, but Trump is bringing on the pressure. And this is where Trump is doing something good, okay? This is what Trump should be focused on. So yesterday, Trump was out there stumping on Obamacare, and he said, Obamacare is death. Okay, fair enough. Here he is.
President Trump using the power of his presidential bully pulpit against the backdrop of the Blue Room and the faces of what the White House calls the victims of Obamacare.
It was a big, fat, ugly lie.
With doom and gloom declarations, the president railed against the law of the land, not surprisingly swiping at Democrats.
They run out, they say death, death, death. Well, Obamacare is death.
Okay, so that's fair enough from President Trump, and he was pushing very hard. He was complimenting Senator McCain, who he's not always been warm with. Senator McCain just showed up on the Senate floor and gave a speech that is being hailed by a lot of people with regard to President Trump and with regard to the Republican handling of Obamacare in the House or in the Senate. I'm sure we'll have more clips of that tomorrow for you because it's sort of a big moment. Trump also is attempting to push senators. He says the senators who don't vote for whatever this is, we don't know what this is yet, but who don't vote for this, own Obamacare. Here's his push.
They want to forget about the countless Americans they've hurt and the many that they are continuing to hurt every day by refusing to help us replace Obamacare. For the last 7 years, Republicans have been united in standing up for Obamacare's victims. Remember, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. They kept saying it over and over again. Every Republican running for office promised immediate relief from this disastrous law. We as a party must fulfill that solemn promise to the voters of this country to repeal and replace what they've been saying for the last 7 years. But so far, Senate Republicans have not done their job in ending the Obamacare nightmare.
Okay, so Trump putting the pressure on his fellow Republicans in the Senate. McCain basically called for bipartisanship. And we will see if he votes in favor of the motion to proceed. So we'll give you all the updates on that as it comes in. Trump is doing the right thing in putting pressure on the Senate to take this up. The big question is going to be, what's in that bill? What's in that bill? It is not sufficient just to pass any bill. And I know that you're going to hear a lot from Republican partisans today saying, well, they have to vote for something. Okay, well, it depends on what the something is. Do you want to own Obamacare and put the GOP stamp of approval on it? Right now, what they're talking about is something they're calling skinny repeal, okay, which is, again, just their branding effort is spectacular. Skinny repeal would apparently be getting rid of the individual mandate. I don't think it reinforces the new version of the mandate, but getting rid of the individual mandate, getting rid of some of the taxes, getting rid of the employer mandate. So it gets rid of the funding mechanism for Obamacare, in other words. That would exacerbate the death spiral, and then the Republicans would have to come up with some new legislation to deal with the fallout from that. Which presumably they would do in another bill after they pass this one. So that's not a terrible strategy as far as it goes. But we'll talk more about that. Plus, Trump spoke at the Boy Scouts, and it was pretty hilarious. We'll talk about that in just a second. But for that, you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com and subscribe. For $9.99 a month, you can subscribe to Daily Wire. Yes, you, the person listening right now. We're a video show. You can watch the show, see the clips, see my faces of bemusement and amazement about politics. And not only that, you get the website ad-free. You get to be part of the mailbag. We will only answer your questions if you're part of the mailbag. You can be part of Andrew Klaven's podcast as well. And Michael Knowles, God help us, has a show coming out as well that you can be a part of that comes out next week. All of that when you get your subscription over at Daily Wire. If you want the annual subscription, which is what I recommend, you also get a magnificent, unbelievable tumbler. It is so precious, I had to leave it in my studio at home. I could not bring it with me because it is too precious to carry with me. It must be left in a guarded vault where we have 3 security guards so that the Joker doesn't steal it. It says leftist tears, hot or cold. You get that for free when you become an annual subscriber for just $99 a year. So go over and check that out over at dailywire.com. You want to listen later, go to iTunes or SoundCloud. Subscribe, leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We are the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Okay, so yesterday, President Trump spoke at the Boy Scouts, and he's getting all sorts of flack from the left for speaking at the Boy Scouts because Trump went there, and it was pretty ridiculous. He treated the Boy Scouts like it was a typical political rally. Chuck Todd was particularly sad. Chuck Todd tweeted out, "How dare President Trump do this? He said, please, President, don't put the Boy Scouts in this situation. Keep politics out of the jamboree. What a mess. Totally unfair to these kids." Okay, so before I begin with the critique of Trump, let me just say this. I have grounds to stand on in critiquing Trump with regard to the sacrosanct nature of the Boy Scouts. That's because I haven't said that the Boy Scouts should be mandatorily forced to open to girls, okay? The entire left has said that the Boy Scouts should allow transgender boys, meaning girls who believe they are boys, into the Boy Scouts, and the entire left has suggested that the Boy Scouts should be removed of their IRS 501c3 status if they do not allow gay scoutmasters and gay scouts. Right, so you need people talking about their sexuality in the Boy Scouts now. So the left doesn't have any ground. When they talk about the sacrosanct Boy Scouts, we must protect them. Okay, I'm not going to take that crap from a bunch of people who have been trying to destroy the Boy Scouts for nigh on 2 decades. Okay, that stuff ain't going to wash. Anyway, so Trump does speak in front of the Boy Scouts, and it is pretty wild. So first of all, the Boy Scouts were chanting that they love Trump, and people in the media can't understand this. Okay, maybe the reason for that is a lot of the people who are in the Boy Scouts have evangelical parents, come from conservative areas. Here's some tape of the Boy Scouts chanting that they like Trump.
By the way, just a question. Did President Obama ever come to a jamboree?
Okay, so there's Trump being Trump, doing his rally routine, going out there and politicizing. He can't just accept the praise. He has to rip on President Obama at the same time. Then, it is really funny, he says to Tom Price, who's Health and Human Services Secretary, this is in front of a bunch of children, okay? There's people who are aged 12 to 18, that if Tom Price doesn't get the votes on Trump care, then he'll fire him, which is it's just great to threaten to fire everyone in your cabinet in the same week. Good process here.
By the way, you going to get the votes? He better get them. He better get them. Oh, he better. Otherwise, I'll say, Tom, you're fired. I'll get somebody.
Okay, so he threatens to fire him, and then he threatens Jeff Sessions. So this is really kind of garbage. This is, a garbage way to act. So it's a bunch of children, remember? And President Trump just shows up, and Jeff Sessions is an Eagle Scout, by the way, right? Not invited to this, right? All the other Eagle Scouts are there, not Jeff Sessions. And he implies that Jeff Sessions is disloyal to him. Okay, so he's reading the Boy Scout oath. Okay, the Boy Scout oath is sort of the opposite of Trump's personal creed of duty. And so he starts reading it, and he just breaks in the middle to make a snide reference about Jeff Sessions. Unbelievable.
Great Boy Scouts become great Americans. As the Scout law says, a Scout is trustworthy, loyal. We could use some more loyalty, I will tell you that.
Okay, and then the rest of the crowd continues on with the oath because they all know the oath. I love that he's ripping Jeff Sessions in the middle of that. It's pretty amazing. So, well done. Just well done. By the way, breaking news from the Wall Street Journal. Trump is now saying to the Wall Street Journal that Sessions, who's the only senator to endorse him in the primaries, did so because of big crowds, not loyalty, which is insane, okay? I know Senator Sessions. That's absolute garbage. And here is Trump ripping him in front of a bunch of children. The best moment of this was where Trump, who legitimately at this point is starting, like in front of a bunch of kids. If I were a kid, this would sound like my daughter and grandfather, drunk around the campfire, starting to tell a story about the old days. Here is Donald Trump telling children, remember, these are kids, a story about life and developers in New York City. What in the world?
And he said, yes, I would. He so badly wanted. He got bored with this life of yachts and sailing and all of the things he did in the south of France and other places. You won't get bored, right? Truthfully, your workers, you'll get bored too, believe me. Of course, having a few good years like that isn't so bad. But what happened is he bought back his company. And he bought back a lot of empty land. And he worked hard on getting it zoning, and he worked hard on starting to develop. And in the end, he failed, and he failed badly. Lost all of his money. He went personally bankrupt. And he was now much older. And I saw him at a cocktail party. And it was very sad because the hottest people in New York were at this party. It was the party of Steve Ross. Steve Ross, who was one of the great people he came up and discovered, really founded Time Warner. And he was a great guy. He had a lot of successful people at the party.
What is he talking about?
And I was doing well, so I got invited to the party. I was very young.
What in the world? And all the kids are like, Grandpa, your hearing aid, what? What? My favorite part of the speech is where he said that we beat Hillary Clinton thanks to people getting out and voting like you. Most of the people there are under 18. So if we're going to investigate voter fraud and all the Boy Scouts are voting, that's a problem. Okay, so the media is going nuts over this, of course. The media goes nuts over everything. So they've decided that this is the worst thing that has ever happened in the history of American politics. Again, I'm not willing to hear that from the same media that's been ripping the Boy Scouts up and down and trying to destroy them. Is it appropriate for Trump to do this? Of course not. Are we used to Trump doing inappropriate things? Yes. This is the least of my concerns. It's also semi-charming and ridiculous that the President of the United States is getting up there like my grandpa on Depends, you know, getting up there and telling stories, irrelevant stories about his days in the schmata business. Like, what in the world? So, with all of this craziness going on, fortunately, we have a second party that's intelligent and with it and really cares about the... No, we don't, actually. It turns out that's the Democratic Party, so this has been a giant fail. So I love this. The Democrats are still trying to figure out what their message is. Well, they have no clue what their message is. So Chuck Schumer, he came out yesterday and he said, you know, it seems that people don't get our message. This is the Senate Minority Leader. People don't get, I think the problem is people may get your message, actually. Here's Schumer on the message.
Week after week, month after month, we're going to roll out specific pieces here that are quite different than the Democratic Party you heard in the past. We were too cautious. We were too namby-pamby. This is sharp, bold, and will appeal to both the old Obama coalition, let's say the young lady who's just getting out of college, and the Democratic voters who deserted us for Trump, the blue-collar worker.
Some may wonder
economics, George, is our strength.
Some may wonder if it's going to
go at it.
Okay, again, just amazing. Like, they think they've really got it in control this time. This time we're really going to push our message. But here's the problem. There's an inherent contradiction in the Democratic message. As we've talked about, there are two separate wings of the Democratic Party fighting for ascendance right now. Wing number one, the intersectional wing. Right? The idea that the Barack Obama wing of the party, we're going to cobble together all of these various identity groups and they will come together. And then once they have come together, they will form a majority and they will push legislation. Right? This is Obama's theory. But we have to first separate them out into groups and then pander to each group as necessary and call white people racists in order to provide a common point of opposition. That's group number one. Group number two is the Bernie Sanders socialists. Okay, we're not so into the intersectionality. We just like big government. We need big government solutions. Socialism works for everyone. Socialism wipes out all of the distinctions between colors and ethnicities and religions. Just more socialism for everybody. These are in open conflict. Schumer says, we don't need to choose. We can do both. No, not so much.
It's a false choice. There doesn't have to be a division. In fact, there must not be a division. The vision we're laying out unites both coalitions and unifies the Democratic Party. It will have a larger, stronger appeal to Americans of all economic levels and all political stripes. It will appeal to the young woman who just graduated from college in Los Angeles, the factory worker in Akron who's now only making $11 an hour, and the single mom in Buffalo cleaning toilets on minimum wage.
Okay, so there it is. No, actually, it's going to be very difficult for you to bridge that gap, considering that one half of your party hates the other half of your party. You're going to lose the blue-collar voters so long as you insist on making white males the object of all of your ire in order to unify the rest of your multicultural base. So, fortunately, we have two parties that are in full disarray, not just one. Again, it looks like the Republicans may be able to pass something through the Senate. Let's see what it is. I'm optimistic that maybe it'll make some good changes, and I will give you my evaluation of a bill once we've seen it, because this process has been hot garbage thus far. You know, the attempt to spin out a bill without anyone having seen it, because it's a mystery. I'm not a fan of this. I'm a fan of transparency. I'm old enough to remember when the Republicans ran on the promise that any piece of legislation be up for 3 full days so people could read it before there was any sort of vote on it. Now we've put that by the wayside because hopefully if people just don't know what's in any bill, we can ram it through really fast. We'll find out what's in it tomorrow, hopefully, and I will have some sort of synopsis for you on that. Okay. Before I get to things I like, things I hate, and some deconstruction of the culture, I first want to say thank you to our sponsors over at My Patriot Supply. So right now, if you are concerned about the possibility of some sort of natural disaster, even a brownout, some situation where you can't get to the grocery store and there's a problem getting access to food, then you really need to talk to my friends over at My Patriot Supply. That's why I depend on them to help prepare me and my crew for survival with their incredible survival food. They have a survival food supply for just $99, which includes 102 servings of breakfasts, lunches, and dinners for less than $1 per serving. People at the office have tried it. They say that it tastes like home cooking. The number is 888-803-1413 or preparewithben.com. Preparewithben.com. Only $99 plus free shipping. 888-803-1413 or check it out at preparewithben.com. Again, that's $99 to make sure that your family is safe. It's like a family of 4. That means that you're going to be safe for 30 meals for each. So you should be safe for a while. And that can take you through some dangerous times if, God forbid, something happens. That's why you need to go to My Patriot Supply and check them out, preparewithben.com. Okay, so time for some things I like and then some things that I hate. So things that I like. So at the end of Dunkirk, one of the great directorial choices that Christopher Nolan, the director, makes is that he doesn't use the music of Hans Zimmer at the very end, who's his kind of normal composer. Instead, he uses some music by Edward Elgar. Edward Elgar is a very famous British composer. He's most famous for writing Pomp and Circumstance. So everybody knows his music because you've been to a graduation. Da 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 da. That's Edward Elgar. Very famous music. So I wanted to do today some music that's used in movies that is not actually movie music. It's actually just classical music used in other movies. So this is most famous for being used. It's been used in a bunch of movies, but it's most famous for being used in Platoon, in the scene where Willem Dafoe's character is being shot. You hear this come over the soundtrack. It is Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings, one of the more beautiful pieces ever composed, and here's what it sounds like. This piece was composed in 1936 by, again, Samuel Barber. It was played on the announcement over radio that FDR was dead. It was played when it was announced that JFK was dead on television. It was played. It's appeared in just a ton of movies. The Elephant Man, Platoon, Lorenzo's Oil. Yeah, I thought it was in Lorenzo's Oil. It's been played to comic effect, even in Seinfeld, actually, in episode of The Simpsons, in South Park. It's been played so often now that people actually use it as a joke, right? But it's a great piece, very effective and very affecting. And Samuel Barber is one of the great modern American composers. Died in 1981. I think he's 1910 to 1981. And he has a lot of terrific music that's worth listening to. Okay, other things that I like. So, everybody is focused in on Kid Rock running for Senate in Michigan. That's, of course, because Kid Rock is super famous. He sold 14 million records. He is extraordinarily popular. He's done this routine where he makes sure that all the tickets that are sold for his concerts have to be $20 or less, so he's a populist. But there's somebody who's better qualified running for that same Senate seat. His name is John James, and here's an ad for John James running for office in Michigan.
I'm a Republican because I'm conservative. Specifically, the exceptionalism of our country and our Constitution, and they must be defended. I'm pro-gun. I understand that James Madison wrote this document and listed the number 2 thing behind religion, speech, and the right to assemble, the right to keep and bear arms. It's that important. I believe that life begins at conception. It's a God-given miracle. Michigan deserves a leader who's lived in the real world, who understands national security, who understands how to provide economic opportunity, because they've actually created jobs. Michigan deserves a leader to make sure that everyone has a fair shot. You do that by understanding economic opportunity and by understanding national security. Because if you don't do both, then our future will not be as bright as it can be. I'm John James, and I'm exploring a run for U.S. Senate.
Okay, so this guy would be a rock star in the Republican Party in the pre-celebrity era. This guy is a former military guy. He's a U.S. Marine. He is 36 years old. He is black. He is the CEO of Renaissance Global Logistics, which is a logistics and warehousing firm based in Detroit. He's basically the perfect candidate, right? I mean, he's articulate and as Joe Biden might say, bright and articulate. But obviously, he's a smart guy with a terrific record and just a great candidate. I mean, we're doing an interview with him over at Daily Wire. You should check it out. We need more candidates like that. We need more Congress people like that. I understand the thrill of celebrity, and I understand why everybody's interested in celebrity. But, I mean, come on, folks. At some point, we're going to need to actually nominate people who have a deeply conservative streak, who know what policies they care about, and who have a history of running businesses and dealing with communities. The celebrity politics is not my bag, and I'm getting kind of tired of it. Okay, other things. Okay, so let's do some one quick thing I hate, and then we'll get to deconstructing the culture. So, the thing I hate this week is that every day on Huffington Post, there is some insane thing where somebody does something crazy or insane, and then Huffington Post says, this person is crushing a stereotype by doing a crazy thing. So here's what it is this time. Okay, Barcelona-based Cinta Tortcartro uses paint and glitter to highlight parts and functions of the body women have been conditioned to feel ashamed of, like stretch marks and menstruation. So now, if you have a stretch mark, she's painting it. She uses a vibrant rainbow of colors to highlight stretch marks on the skin and to show the beauty of menstruation on underwear, sanitary pads, and tampons. She told Pop Sugar it started with her own journey towards self-love. Hey, anytime anyone has to tell you about their journey towards self-love, they're a jerk. Okay, like, I don't want to hear about your journey towards self-love. It's your business, not mine. Not interested. It says, I have not always felt comfortable with my period and stretch marks, she said. TMI, gang. Well, when did this phrase TMI go out of style? Because I sort of like it, this TMI phrase. It says, overall, I have not always felt secure with my body. Over the years and after internal reflection, I saw that if I did not accept anything about my body, hair, stretch marks, I could never love or accept me. Really? Why? Why can't you love or accept you with your flaws? Or do you have to love, why can't you love like certain things about your body but not other things? Like, if we all loved being overweight, we'd all stay overweight. I'm not saying that you should like cultivate a hatred for your own body, God forbid, but I don't know why you taking pictures of like the parts of yourself that nobody really wants to see is a beneficial thing. Why that is a worthwhile thing to do. She paints underwear and she paints stretch marks, and it says you'll never look at your body the same way again. And they say so. Then there's a picture of a sanitary pad with glitter on it, and it says so beautiful. That's also what happens when my 3-year-old daughter gets a hold of the sanitary pads and takes it into her craft room. So I'm not sure why this qualifies you to be some sort of artistic genius, but everything must be cheered now, up to and including bodily functions. I'm looking forward to the male response, which is painting your poop, and that'll be really fun. Painting your bowel movements, painting your beer belly. I have never felt comfortable with my beer belly, but now I've painted it all the colors of the rainbow and given it a frog mouth. Okay. Okay, time to deconstruct a little bit of culture. We need to leave that behind and move on with our lives. Time to deconstruct the culture. So, one of the things that's been bugging me this week is that all of these actors are now suggesting that it is very, 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 very important that movies that are aimed at children and entertainment pieces contain all sorts of political messaging. So, yesterday, the lead voice actor for the Emoji Movie insisted that the movie is a very, very important way of fighting President Trump's administration rather than just a film about talking faces, according to Alex Griswold over at the Free Beacon. He's talking with the Huffington Post. He trashed his coworkers on Silicon Valley, which is a show that I think is hilarious. He said, right before the election, I asked, how much money did you donate, you Hollywood elites? How much did you donate to Hillary Clinton's campaign? And everybody in the cast said nothing. They hadn't given $1. Maybe because she's the worst candidate in American history. Miller said, however, he's very much on board with the Emoji Movie. He said, how rare is it we get an opportunity to do an original property, right? There's an opportunity to do something optimistic, positivistic. And, you know, we have very few weapons in the current administration, and one of them is to target a younger demographic and try and help them understand and adopt progressive values. The movie has a lot to say to women, how they have limitless potential, and one of the characters literally breaks through a glass ceiling. Okay, this is a movie I won't take my daughter to see. I don't want to see your political messaging, TJ Miller. I'm not interested in what Hollywood thinks my child ought to see. I'm interested in what I think my child ought to see. She's my child. You don't know her. You don't care about her. I do. So it's my job to determine what my child should see. And you messaging in the Emoji Movie is not going to forward the ball at all in American politics. You want to know what made Trump? This is one of the things that made Trump, is the incessant attempts by the left to infuse every single damn thing with politics. Everything. Everything has to be infused with politics, up to and including a stupid movie with poop emojis played by Patrick Stewart. You wonder why Hollywood is going to the dogs? This is one of the reasons. You want to know why people are seeing superhero movies right now? Because they don't want to be hit with your stupid messaging. You want to know why Dunkirk did great business, besides being a very good movie? It's because there is no political messaging in Dunkirk. And no matter how hard the left tried, they couldn't find political messaging in Dunkirk. And so people were willing to go see it. So we'll go see Spider-Man, or we'll go see Marvel movies, or we'll go see DC movies. We'll go see all of these superhero movies because we're not expecting to be sucker punched. But we know that if we go see a serious drama, there's at least a 35% chance there's going to be some backhanded slap at Trump or conservatives or Republicans in there. I was watching a movie last night on a plane. I'm in New York. I was watching this movie that was, what was the name of this film? It was a huge cast. It was Amy Adams and Michael Shannon. For some reason, as I get older, I forget the names of movies. In any case, it was Nocturnal Animals. That's the name of the film. So Nocturnal Animals is this film that opens with probably the worst opening I've ever seen to a pretty good movie. The rest of the movie is fine. But halfway through the movie, there's a scene where the main character, played by Amy Adams, just starts ripping on her mother, and she says she's a terrible person because she's a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, and of course, she's a Republican. Of course, she's a Republican. And it's just like, okay, did we need that sucker punch right here in the middle of the film? Like, was that necessary? Now, it turns out that it's not as much of a sucker punch as it seems, but that sort of thing is what people attempt to avoid when they go to the movies. If Hollywood wants to continue poisoning the popular culture to the point where we can't even share movies and entertainment with each other, then the end result is going to be a more polarized culture, not a less polarized culture. Okay, so we'll be back here tomorrow to talk about John McCain's apparently big speech that I'm just now seeing on Twitter. We'll talk also about what exactly Trump care is going to be, plus the latest on the Jeff Sessions saga when we return. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
Do you sell stuff on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, your own website? Then you need ShipStation, a popular choice of online sellers across Canada. No matter where you sell, ShipStation automatically imports your orders, making them easier to manage. Plus, they'll help you get the lowest rates from all the top carriers, including Canada Post and Purolator. Now you can try ShipStation free for 30 days. Plus, get a special bonus when you use the code SHIPPING. To learn more, go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone and enter SHIPPING.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, everyone's excited. There was a vote 50 to 50. 50 senators for, 50 senators against. Proceeding with a debate on a replacement for Obamacare. The Vice President, who is also the President of the Senate under our Constitution, voted as well, so it passed 51 to 50. Everybody's excited. Now, what does this mean to you? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. But this is how Washington works. And the way Washington works is pushed into the country through the media, and then our reality becomes Washington's reality, which means our reality becomes the left's reality. John McCain, bless his heart, he came back to vote. And, as you know, I've wished him all the best. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible disease he has. And he went on the Senate floor, and among other things, he said this, cut one, go.
Our system doesn't depend on our nobility. It accounts for our imperfections and gives us in order to our individual strivings that has helped make ours the most powerful and prosperous society on earth. It is our responsibility to preserve that, and even when it requires us to do something less satisfying than winning, even when we must give a little to get a little, even when our efforts manage just 3 yards in a cloud of dust while critics on both sides denounce us for timidity, for our failure to triumph. I hope we can again rely on humility, on our need to cooperate, on our dependence on each other, to learn how to trust each other again, and by so doing better serve the people who elected us. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them.
Yes, well, they do listen to all of us, don't they, ladies and gentlemen? Now, would they be in the pickle they're in now if they had listened to us? Bombastic? I thought that's the term used for members of Congress. Bombastic. Well, we still love Senator McCain, and we still wish him all the best. I truly do. And stop listening to the loudmouths on the radio, television, and internet. To hell with them. They should listen to themselves. Listen to themselves. He says, our system doesn't depend on our nobility. Thank God for that. It accounts for our imperfections and gives us an order to our individual strive. Now, this is the point. All of us are imperfect. Politicians in particular. Because certain things that drive them do not drive average people. Among them, they're power-hungry. Imperfect, power-hungry politicians. Am I being bombastic now, Mr. Producer? I hope not. Imperfect, power-hungry politicians shouldn't be running our healthcare system. Now, for all the leaks against Mike Lee in Politico, in the New York Slimes, and the Washington Compost, put there by Mitch McConnell and his surrogates, Mike Lee voted to proceed with the debate. Can't fault him for that. Can't fault him for that. But the two Republicans who did vote against it, I probably would have voted against it too, but that doesn't matter. I'm not a senator. The two Republicans who did were two of the most liberal Republicans, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. Collins of Maine, Murkowski of Alaska. Have you seen any leaks against them, ladies and gentlemen? By Mitch McConnell or his surrogates? Have you seen them attacking those two ladies? No. Have you seen them under attack in Politico? No. In the Washington Compost? No. In the New York Slimes? No. Well, there's the difference. There's the difference. Conservatives are attacked, and liberals get a pass. And the reason liberals get a pass is, in the Republican Party is because they vote with the Democrats. And the Democrats always get a pass. So it would be nice if the Democrats and the Republicans would be working together, but I think Senator McCain has not been observing what's going on in the very body in which he serves, which is the Democrats are kamikaze Democrats. They're trying to destroy this presidency. There's no chance of bipartisanship with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has basically destroyed the whole notion of an independent judiciary. Chuck Schumer has expanded the use of filibusters against judicial nominees, except when he destroys them. Chuck Schumer's done a lot of damage to this country. I don't believe in bipartisanship with somebody who is repulsed by the Constitution. And this is the point. It's not just McCain. It's most of the Republicans in the Senate and the House. They do not understand what's going on. This is not about Obamacare. It's not about replacing Obamacare. I'll give you another Republican, this time a former Republican, former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, who became Speaker thanks to you and the Tea Party. I want you to listen to what he has to say. Cut 4, go.
Governors have gotten accustomed to this Medicaid expansion, and we're, 7 months into this year, and yet they've not passed this bill. Now, they're not going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's been around too long.
Now, stop. There you go. It's been around too long. It's been around 7 years. It's a disaster. It's been around too long. And you and I are supposed to be bipartisan. The whole thing about being imperfect is you don't centralize power in the hands of a relative few imperfect human beings. You diffuse power. Let people make their own decisions. So you have McConnell conducting himself the way he conducts himself. You heard the McCain statements, and now you've heard Boehner. This is why, in so many ways, the country's lost. This is why. No real talk about the impact on individuals and families, except for the propaganda of the left, which we must dismiss. No real talk about what's best for the American citizen in terms of choices of policies, choices of insurance companies, costs of policies, high deductibles, costs of medicine, and so forth. The only antidote to this is market capitalism. It's the only antidote. But they reject it, including the Republicans. So Obamacare has been around too long. The governors have gotten accustomed to this expanded Medicaid. And that's that. That's all she wrote. And you and I are supposed to be celebrating a 51-50 vote in the U.S. Senate, and we don't even know what the next vote's on. You and I. We're being lectured about bipartisanship. The Democrats don't believe in bipartisanship. They didn't pass Obamacare through bipartisanship, and right now the kamikaze Democrats are doing everything they can to stop any effective alternatives, any effective reforms. And the President of the United States, sadly, says he'll basically sign anything. He just wants something on his desk so he can change the narrative and claim a victory. I'm sorry. A plague on all their houses. A plague on everybody's house. This isn't about the Republicans and the Democrats in the House and the Senate. This isn't about the President. It's about you. It's about you being able to purchase a health care plan that's affordable and that provides the kind of coverage that you want to purchase. That's all. And we're told we can't do it. We're also told we need to massively expand Medicaid. Now, I want to tell you about Medicaid. Medicaid, as we said, is a welfare program. Under current law, as Terry Jeffrey writes at CNS News, including the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, listen to this. There will be 112 million people who enroll in Medicaid in 10 years, up from 72 million. That's an increase of 40 million from 2013, the last year before Obamacare's expansion of Medicaid program went into effect. An increase of 40 million, up to 112 million. That means about a quarter of the population, slightly more, will be on a welfare entitlement program, with health care that is poor, health care coverage that's poor, and enormously expensive, because that's the way the feds work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's not reform, that's not coverage, that's just flat-out socialism. And the Republicans don't have the foggiest idea what's going on. The President and his staff don't have the foggiest idea what's going on. And the Democrats know exactly what they're doing. Let's play this John Boehner again, because John Boehner's telling you. He's telling you how the Republicans conduct themselves. Cut 4, go.
Governors have gotten accustomed to this Medicaid expansion, and we're, 7 months into this year, and yet they've not passed this bill. Now, they're not going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's been around too long.
So there you go. And Obama knew it, and the Democrats know it today. That's why they'll get family leave in there forever. A government program is forever. A government department and agency is forever. And your liberty is not. Don't listen to the bombasts, on talk radio. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, put this in context. We talked about positive liberty and negative liberty. Negative liberty is the focus on the individual and the circle of liberty around the individual, unalienable rights and so forth, as in the Declaration. Negative liberty, meaning it's a negative to state control, a negative to governmental intrusion, governmental domination of the individual. That's what it means. Negative liberty, your Bill of Rights, negative liberties. The government cannot do this or that to the individual. Then, of course, there's positive liberty, which is what the progressives promote. What's that? Taking control of one's life through the collective. Free college, but you need to do this, 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 and you get caught in this web of bureaucratic controls and coercion. I know the names seem odd, positive liberty versus negative liberty, but positive liberty means positive governmental control over the individual. That presumably expands liberty through the collective. And that's this debate over Obamacare. It's an argument over positive liberty. There's nobody arguing over negative liberty. That is, individual free will. Now, what is Obamacare? Remember this positive liberty? Obamacare is what we would call legal positivism. Now, what does that mean? Legal positivism means the government has or seizes the power to act. Moral authority is irrelevant. It's a complete rejection of natural law. Natural law that believes there's a moral order, right and wrong, good and bad, that the individual needs to consent to conduct that affects the individual, that the individual ought not be molested by the state for any greater good or anything else. So we're dealing with this notion of positive liberty, that is, that your liberty is only manifested through the state. And that's the push on Obamacare and the alternative right now. Your health care can only be delivered through the state. And legal positivism. Again, a rejection of this notion of the individual consent, right and wrong, eternal truths. Instead, it's replaced with government action, government law, legal positivism. And remember, those of you with a really good memory, those of you who read Rediscovering Americanism, the vote, that is, the consent of the governed, is considered a non-legal aspect to legal positivism. It's political. It could be considered or not considered by the government. Considered or not considered. So that's exactly what's taking place. This is what I mean. We have the entire debate in what is supposed to be the greatest deliberative body in the world is not a debate at all, and it's not deliberative at all. It is virtually a 100% embrace of a notion of liberty and a notion of law that is alien to our founding. Utterly and completely alien to our founding. So legal positivism, the power of the state to do something just because it can or it claims it can, and positive liberty. That is, liberty defined not as individual liberty, not as having anything to do with the individual, but as government acting in a way that it claims, or its surrogates and adherents claim, provides the freest and therefore the most fulfilling existence through the collective. Through the collective. This is now what the country's become. This is where we are. Essentially a rejection of the nation's founding, a rejection of the Declaration of Independence. This is what happens after more than 100 years of progressivism. We had a guy who called last night. I had no tolerance for him whatsoever. Not on this show. He can call some other show, and they'll milk him for 20 minutes. I'm not interested. Well, he says, not only do I believe in a minimum wage, I believe in a maximum wage. So not only does he believe that this federal government can unconstitutionally set minimum wages, the federal government can go further, can unconstitutionally limit what a human being can do, can achieve, can acquire. That's slavery. That's a form of slavery. And there are millions and millions and millions of our fellow citizens who are more than happy to be enslaved like this, as long as you're screwing somebody else that has nothing to do with them or who has nothing to do with them. It's appalling. I'll be right back.
Levin, making conservatism great again. Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
You know, I get a kick out of when people call here, they're construction workers or truck drivers or Uber drivers or plumbers or electricians or what have you. And they're telling me about Hegel and Rousseau and Wilson. They've been reading the book. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to know all these things, to open your mind to this information, to get on the same level as these so-called intellectuals and philosophers, to debate them within your own head and then among the people around you for the future of the country. It's a big deal. Now, remember, I've told you, and I wrote in Rediscovering Americanism, these things are intertwined, the whole notion of liberty and unalienable rights, natural law, property rights, republicanism. One relies on the other. And when you pull the thread of one, you pull the thread of all. So I just explained what Obamacare is all about, and that the debate is a debate among progressives. That's pretty much what it is. Forget about party labels. It's a debate among progressives. The progressive era was an era in which the Democrat and Republican Party were involved. Woodrow Wilson, but before him, Theodore Roosevelt. And it's continued since that day. John McCain is a Theodore Roosevelt adherent. That's among his favorite presidents. That's okay. Just need to understand that. But when the governing system begins to unravel, the notion of liberty, positive versus negative liberty, begins to unravel. The idea of positive law versus natural law, that begins to unravel. What else unravels? Economics, macroeconomics, and specific property rights. And so what the progressives do is they resort to Marxist class warfare, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. All of you are supposed to be the proletariat. You're supposed to be rising up in factories, in schools, in retail stores all over the country and overthrowing the government. The problem is you're not, because you love your country. But that doesn't stop the progressive from pushing this agenda. The proletarian. Perfect example of this was Chuck Schumer yesterday at their event, which they're unveiling their new economic plan, which is as old as progressivism itself. More taxes, more spending, more regulation, more government. But he attacks capitalism the way they attack the Declaration of Independence, the way they attack the Constitution. Listen. Cut 16, go.
Nothing bothers average folks more than the cable bill or airline fee that just keeps going up, because there are so few competitors in the industry, sometimes only one or two. Old-fashioned capitalism has broken down to the detriment of consumers. Adam Smith has lost his way amidst these big corporations.
This is a stunning comment. Listen to what he's talking about. Cable. Airlines. I don't know how many more times I can say this. We live better today as a result of Adam Smith capitalism. Although Adam Smith didn't create capitalism. But he gave the greatest explanation of it. We live better today, the so-called average American, as they call most of you, than the kings and queens did 200 and 250 years ago. Where does Chuck Schumer think cable television came from? Where does Chuck Schumer think the airplane came from? Where does Chuck Schumer think all these things came from that he thinks are too expensive and there's not enough competition? Folks, look around you. Look around you. You have access to virtually anything you want. Think about what went on 200 years ago and so forth. You might say, well, that's the nature of advancement. No, advancement isn't a given. Invention, that's not a given. Productivity is not a given. There's many societies that are flat, that have not progressed. We had the great Industrial Revolution, which is trashed in school systems all over this country. Every society on the face of the earth doesn't have hot and cold water when you simply turn on the faucet. Or sewage that leaves your home and goes wherever it goes. Every society on the face of the earth doesn't have grocery stores and supermarkets with shelves filled with food from all over the country, all over the world. Every society doesn't have airlines that go to virtually every town and city in America, in their own country, at a relatively inexpensive cost, comparatively speaking. But the progressive must attack private property rights. They must attack market capitalism, just as they did in Venezuela, just as they did in Cuba and North Korea. Because in order to empower themselves, in order to centralize the government, in order to regulate, and regulate more, they must destroy the private sector, and they must destroy the individual. This is what they must do. So in any event, I want you to listen to Chuck Schumer again. Cut 16, go.
Nothing bothers average folks more than the cable bill or airline fee that just keeps going up. Because there are so few competitors in the industry, sometimes only one or two.
Now this is precious. Since Obamacare has destroyed healthcare competition in county after county after county in this country. He talks about bigness as being bad, except, of course, when it comes to the federal government. This insanity and this hypocrisy, they're never called out for it. More and more centralized government is far more dangerous than a centralized economy, even though I don't favor either. I favor competition. But why is that, folks? Because the government has the power to make laws, to fine and to punish. And ExxonMobil does not. And ExxonMobil does not. Meanwhile, gasoline prices are going down. Obamacare costs are going through the roof. And the Republicans in the Senate are utterly clueless. What I've just spent 20 minutes discussing with you, positive and negative liberty, positive law, natural law, market economics, the attack on market economics, they don't spend 1 second thinking about it in the greatest deliberative body on the face of the earth. Not 1 second. Not a second. Chuck Schumer can talk about the price of cable, but what he won't tell you is how we got cable. He can talk about the price of airline tickets, but he won't talk about the fact that we have airlines. The fact that we have an abundance of food in this country, an abundance of fuel in this country, clean water when you turn open the faucet. You flick a switch, you get electricity. You have lights. You have energy. You hop in your car. Almost every household has one car, maybe two. And you can drive anywhere in the country. The government created none of this. Adam Smith was right. Chuck Schumer's a fool. Chuck Schumer's a fool. The other great thing, there are many, but one other great thing I should say about capitalism. Capitalism knows no race. It knows no sex. It knows no religion. Because when people are purchasing goods, when people are creating goods, when people are purchasing services, when people are creating services, nobody knows ultimately who's done what. I've given this example many times. It's in Liberty and Tyranny. So I'll paraphrase. The person who purchases scrambled eggs at, say, Bob Evans or IHOP, they know nothing of the truck driver in the refrigerated truck. Know nothing about him. They don't know about his race, his religion, if he has a religion, nothing. The person who purchased scrambled eggs knows nothing about the farmer. Knows nothing about the farmer who owns the farm where the chickens lay the eggs. Nothing. Not about the person's race, nothing. All these things that the government has concocted to turn American against American, they're irrelevant. They're absolutely irrelevant. Market capitalism is the least racist, the least sexist, the least whatever you want to call it, economic system in the world. In the world. It also does what? It's the least coercive economic system in the world. You decide if you want cable. You decide if you want to go on an airplane. You decide if you want to purchase certain things. Nobody can force you to do anything. And on the other end, the producers, they want to make money. So they invent things. They create things. They do things to encourage you to purchase their products. And yet the left attacks it. The left attacks it. How? With taxes, with mandates, with environmental rules, with phony minimum wage levels that are set politically by whomever. They don't produce anything. People are tired of the expense of their cable bill. Their cable bill. People are tired of the cost of their cable bill, so Schumer's going to step in and fix it? Do we realize that the vast majority of people on the face of the earth don't have a cable bill? They don't even have cable? They don't even have a TV? They don't have a bicycle? They don't have a car? They don't have 3 meals a day? They don't have fresh water? They don't have a sewage system? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So have you guys heard me talking about the United States Concealed Carry Association yet? They protect responsible gun owners before, during, and after a self-defense shooting. Today I want to share one of their true member stories with you. It's the story of Army veteran Buddy Shepard, who thought with his military background that he was prepared for any dangerous situation. But when 3 armed trespassers put his family's safety in jeopardy, he got a rude awakening. He confronted the 3 men with his pistol. When the police finally arrived, he was outnumbered 3-1. Buddy was the one arrested and charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly firearm. The minimum sentence for those charges would be 3 years in state prison, so he called the USCCA. With the help of a pro-Second Amendment attorney, the charges were dropped, and the United States Concealed Carry Association paid his bail and legal fees in full. Trust me on this. Go to defendthem.com right now, defendthem.com. Learn how you can get the same protection that got Buddy home to his family. That's a true story. That's defendthem.com for more true stories and information on how you can be instantly protected. That's defendthem.com, a wonderful organization for those of us who believe in the Constitution, including the Second Amendment. Now, I do not want people calling in here trashing John McCain. If they have a difference with what he said, that's fine. But we don't jump on a man when he's down. That we will not do. We've got a lot more to talk about, too, but let me take some calls. Mike, Snowshoe, Pennsylvania, Sirius Satellite, go.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark. I was just telling your screen caller. For John McCain to say, don't listen to the radio host, that kind of pissed me off because does he know how these radio hosts like you and Rush and Sean get to where they are with all these listeners and not to listen to the host? That's like telling us, tens of millions of people out here that made you people who you are because we like what you say. He's telling his colleagues, those pointed little heads up there that he mingles with, not to listen to us, the millions of people. He needs to take
I feel that's quite true. Notice he didn't say... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, he needs to take a minute and think about that.
Well, none of them are going to think about it, because I feel in many ways the callers to this show, and this show is in the aggregate, is sort of the Thomas Paine show, that we're going to call out the people who exercise power and the people in Washington, D.C., and we're going to challenge them. And they don't like it. And they don't like it, in my case in particular, when I endorse primary opponents against certain incumbents, which I've done in Arizona and other states. And they like to talk about freedom of the press and the First Amendment when it comes to CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times. Well, talk radio is protected by the very same amendment to the Constitution. What it is, Mike, is this obsessive, I guess it's hate, with conservative talk radio and our audience. I just think that the Republicans and Democrats in Washington are progressives all, but of different degrees and different sorts, and we're not. And we're kind of the, we're kind of the barking dog, and they don't want to hear it.
Well, for him to say don't listen to the radio host, like I said, that's a slap in the face to the tens of millions of us that do listen, and we like what we hear. We don't like what we're hearing out of Washington, is what the problem is, and they don't hear that.
Well, Mike, you know what? You're terrific. I appreciate that. Don't hang up. I want to send you a signed copy of Rediscovering Americanism. Thank you. Noah, Columbia, South Carolina, the great WVOC. Go.
Hello, Mark. Good to talk to you again. You're doing a great job, and I'm loving everything you're saying. I love hearing you guys on the ride home tonight.
Thank you.
I think I can pretty much sum up the mind of a progressive with a pretty simple concept. And why it's on the health care and why you hear so much junk coming out of the Senate and the Democrats. You know, I picked up a copy of your book and I've been reading and just in the introduction right now because I got to pace myself. But talking about Thomas Paine, talking about how we have the negative rights, those things that we are were given to us by Creator, by our divine nature. That, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, property ownership, and those things are not to be infringed upon. Well, there's a flip side to that, and that we are, like C.S. Lewis talked about, we are of dual nature. We are the divine, but we're also we're basically living in mammals. And we have a whole nother nature that we don't understand that is ruling things. Basically, you look at a bunch of howler monkeys, and they're flinging their poo, and they're scratching and killing each other. It doesn't care. Tell me that's not a better, better description of what's going on in the Senate and the House right now and everything basically, all these protesters, they're basically like acting like monkeys. They're howling
All
around.
right, Noah. Noah got to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Do you sell stuff on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, your own website? Then you need ShipStation, a popular choice of online sellers across Canada. No matter where you sell, ShipStation automatically imports your orders, making them easier to manage. Plus, they'll help you get the lowest rates from all the top carriers, including Canada Post and Purolator. Now you can try ShipStation free for 30 days. Plus, get a special bonus when you use the code SHIPPING. To learn more, go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone and enter SHIPPING.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. I've known Jeff Sessions now over 30 years. We're not social buddies. We don't do any of that. But in the professional relationship, when I was Chief of Staff to Attorney General Meese, he was the U.S. Attorney for Alabama. He is a soft-spoken, modest, humble man, which is very unique in public service. And when he endorsed Donald Trump in the Republican primary, I was kind of surprised. I thought he would endorse Ted Cruz. It was a big shock to the conservative movement and the Cruz campaign and me. He was the first senator to sign on with Donald Trump, and it was very, very important to Donald Trump. Same with Mike Flynn, the first top military man to sign on with Donald Trump. Jeff Sessions could win re-election to the United States Senate handily. He could have. Could have spent the rest of his public career in the United States Senate. But he was asked to serve as Attorney General of the United States. So he gave up his Senate seat. And serving in this administration, quite frankly, any Republican administration, is very difficult because of the attacks you come under from the media and the Democrats. It's much easier to be a liberal and a Democrat to serve a liberal Democrat administration. Sessions knew he would receive the same vicious attacks during his nomination process that he received when he was up for a circuit judgeship. And yet he fought them. He fought the Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He fought the Democrats in the Senate. He was confirmed. The issue isn't whether you agree with everything that Jeff Sessions has done throughout his career as Attorney General of the United States, such as recusing on the Russia matter. I've said here before, I don't feel he should have recused. But he did. So be it. He's also done other things. He has defended this president brilliantly and aggressively in hostile federal courts throughout this country when it's come to his executive orders, among other things. He's been a very loyal Attorney General. He's been a loyal conservative for decades. He does not deserve to be treated this way by the president, as if he's some enemy of this president or he's hostile to this president. He's not. And he hasn't demonstrated that in any respect. Now, I understand the president's angry about the way his family's being treated. I'm angry about the way his family's being treated, and so are you. But Jeff Sessions isn't doing that. The Republicans in Congress are allowing this to take place. Jeff Sessions isn't a senator anymore. He's the Attorney General. Nor did he appoint Rob Mueller to be special counsel. The Deputy Attorney General did that. And ironically, should Sessions step down or be fired, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States becomes the Acting Attorney General of the United States. That is, Rod Rosenstein would be the Acting Attorney General of the United States. Now, the President could appoint a recess appointment for a short period of time. The President could nominate somebody else who would never get through the Senate, I guarantee you. But he would never find somebody who was as loyal to him and his agenda as Jeff Sessions. And I don't agree with Jeff Sessions on trade. But that doesn't matter. He's the Attorney General. And so it's obvious what Trump is trying to do is berate him, upset him, and try and force him on his own accord to just leave. Nobody wants to be treated this way, and he's got a wife, he's got kids, they read this stuff too. To come in there every day to the Department of Justice and know that the President of the United States is trashing you is a very, very difficult situation. It also means that he could lose control of the Department of Justice. If the President of the United States really wants Jeff Sessions to go, and he really thinks that's a smart move, I think it's enormously foolish on his part. Then pick up the phone and call him and tell him to resign. Like a mensch. You don't need to rip him to pieces. Or call him into your office and tell him to resign. And have witnesses there. Take notes yourself. Have a camera. Whatever you want. But to take this former senator who was the first to support you, who was loyal to you, and to treat him this way, I think, is terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. And I don't think he's going to get anybody any better. That I'm almost certain of. And it's a huge distraction. And the other cabinet secretaries are looking at this too. I guarantee you. You've got to build loyalty among your cabinet members. You've got to build loyalty among your staff. Or they're going to keep leaking on you, or they're going to embrace policies that are detrimental to your agenda and you. I've never seen anything like this. And it's not because this is cool, because it's an outsider. No. This is inappropriate to somebody who's your friend, an ally, and was a loyal supporter. I understand the anger over the recusal. But there's also a lot of people who believe he had to recuse. But either way, if you want him to go, tell him. And you'll have to deal with all the fallout. There's a lot of conservatives who are huge fans of Jeff Sessions. A lot of conservatives. Because Jeff Sessions has spent 30 years fighting the fights. 30 years fighting to put conservatives, constitutional originalists on the courts, including the Supreme Court. 30 years fighting to try and secure the border, and had enormous influence on Trump's immigration attitude. Spent 30 years fighting the fight. His years in the Senate, in addition to what I said, he's been a fiscal hawk. His time in the Senate, he has supported our military. He has supported law enforcement. He's taken very, very difficult positions, given what the Republican Party has become. And there's no need to treat him this way. No need whatsoever. It's appalling to me. Chuck Schumer's not treated this way. Nancy Pelosi's not treated this way. Mitch McConnell, who deserves to be treated differently, he's not treated this way. Paul Ryan said, look, we're not elected to defend the president, in so many words. He's not treated this way. People who are truly out to destroy this president and his family, or sit on their hands while this president and his family are under attack, get the mitten treatment. Get the mitten treatment. If I were Jeff Sessions, I would leave. He doesn't need to listen to my advice. Say the hell with this. Let him have the Deputy Attorney General as the acting Attorney General. Let him try a recess appointment. Let him go ahead and nominate somebody. Let's see how far that goes. But I didn't sign up for this. To be humiliated and have my family, as a consequence, humiliated as well. And I think most of you in your heart of hearts understand. I think you do. And if Jeff Sessions left, we would miss him. We'd miss him a lot. And the Democrats would love it if he left. Now, of course, they would reverse course like they did with Comey. But still, Trump would be doing their work for him if he was that foolish. We'll see. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
By the way, my advice, for what it's worth, which is probably nothing, to the president is to help the president, not to hurt the president. Luis Gutierrez. What a punk this guy is. What an absolute punk Luis Gutierrez is. What am I looking for here, Mr. Producer? Where's that cut? Cut 11 at Lincoln United Methodist Church in Chicago over the weekend. Cut 11, Luis Gutierrez, go.
The dreamers are not criminals. Those who have TPS are not criminals. The millions of undocumented workers that work every day, sweat and toil at some of the most miserable jobs in the United States of America are not criminals.
Stop. Then why are they here? If they're suffering so badly in the... I don't understand this. And it's time to keep calling them out. If people are here working in the most horrendous conditions imaginable, why do they come here? I would never go to a place where the conditions are horrendous, where I'm discriminated against. Why would I do that? Why would anybody do that? Go ahead.
And history is going to determine who those criminals are. And for me, the major criminal that exists in the United States of America is called Donald Trump. He lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue at the White House.
Guy's a lunatic. Now, let me ask you a question. If he's talking to illegal aliens, most of whom are not fluent in English, some of whom are not fluent in their own language, why is he speaking in English? Because he's doing this for us, those who speak English. Go ahead.
And we're going to take actions today, and we're going to take actions tomorrow, and there will soon be a majority in the House of Representatives, and I'm going to make sure that I'm there to make sure of one thing, that we write those articles of impeachment and take him to trial before the Senate and eliminate him as President of the United States of America.
That's a sick man. So they disagree with Trump, and so they want him eliminated politically. That's what he said, right? Gutierrez is a creature of the Harold Washington Democrat machine in Chicago From 1984 to 86, he served as an advisor to Mayor Harold Washington. He was elected alderman of the city's mostly Hispanic 26th Ward. At the time, he was a member of the Puerto Rican Socialist Party, a Marxist-Leninist entity. I repeat, he was a member of the Puerto Rican Socialist Party, a Marxist-Leninist entity. In 1992, he won a seat in the United States Congress. So he's been there a long time, 25 years. Representing the newly formed 4th District of Illinois, gerrymandered from neighborhoods and suburbs west of downtown Chicago. Its bizarrely shaped, 75% Latino district was designed by Democrats not only to guarantee the area would elect a Latino in Congress, but would elect him. He's been elected every 2 years since. He's a member of both the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And his campaigns have drawn significant support from the Democratic Socialists of America. Democratic Socialists of America. This is from discoverthenetworks.org. In 1999, Gutierrez collaborated with fellow Progressive Caucus members Jose Serrano and Nadia Velasquez, two ultra-leftists, to pressure Bill Clinton through his Deputy Attorney General Eric Holder to free 16 convicted terrorists belonging to the FALN, a Marxist-Leninist paramilitary organization that carried out 146 bombings during a 25-year period, killing 9 people while injuring and maiming dozens of others. In fact, they write, Gutierrez was the FALN's chief spokesman and advocate during the campaign to release its incarcerated members. As my dear friend Deborah Burlingame wrote in 2013, Representative Gutierrez, against all evidence, including FBI undercover tapes of those people making bombs, called them political prisoners and threatened to marshal the Puerto Rican community against the Clintons and Vice President Al Gore, who was then preparing a presidential run as well. And so this is Gutierrez, ladies and gentlemen, a political bomb thrower, making incredibly outrageous statements. And yet, he's not dismissed by the media as a truly insane moron. Maxine Waters is not dismissed by the media as a truly insane moron. Adam Schiff is not dismissed by the media as a truly insane moron. No, they prop them up. Can never get enough of Gutierrez and Waters and Shifty. Can never get enough of them. And other left-wing kooks who are dragged out there or promoted out there. In July 2015, Gutierrez spoke publicly about a recent incident where an illegal alien from Mexico had murdered a young San Francisco woman. You may have heard of her, Kate Steinle. She was walking along a street with her family. Though the perpetrator already had 7 felony convictions and 5 deportations to Mexico on his record, he nevertheless had been able to evade immigration authorities by settling in San Francisco, a so-called sanctuary city. Gutierrez said, quote, every time a little thing like this happens, they, meaning conservatives, use the most extreme example to say it's sanctuary policies that must be eliminated. Gutierrez is a despicable individual. Despicable. He may come across like so many despicable individuals do, publicly as good-natured and smiling and so forth. In fact, I'm dealing with a matter right now. One day I'll tell you about it. People in our own ranks, conservatives. Public face, happy, funny, but behind the scenes a loathsome human being. A dark, loathsome miscreant. I'll be right back.
versus left is right versus wrong. Call Mark at 877-381-3811.
Who is Mark talking about? In due course. In due course. It's the middle of the night. You're covered in sweat. You could run the AC all night, but who can afford that, right? Get rid of your heat-trapping mattress and sleep cool, like I do, on my Casper mattress. Its 2 high-tech foams guarantee you sleep cool, comfortable, and fully supported every night. It ships for free in a box so small you won't even believe it holds a mattress. Casper does that so you can try it risk-free for 100 nights in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll come pick it up and refund you everything. From its breakthrough design and superior quality to its packaging and 100-night in-home trial, it's no wonder Casper was named one of Fast Company's 50 most innovative brands of 2017. Try your Casper for 100 nights with free shipping and returns. Go to Casper.com, Casper.com. Use code MARK, that's the key. Get $50 towards the purchase of your mattress, and the mattress is already very well priced. That's Casper.com, code MARK, and get $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. Casper.com, code MARK, terms and conditions apply. All right, let us jump in, shall we? Let us go to Gulya, Dallas, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
It's Guyla, but that's
fine. I'm sorry.
Hey, it's no problem. I was so wound up this morning. By 9 o'clock, I had answered most of his tweets in reference to Jeff Sessions. I called 23 times before I got the White House line and gave them an earful, and then I went online and sent him an email. I just think what he's doing to Jeff Sessions is awful. And be real quick, thank you and Rush for educating America. Y'all are the bomb, I tell you. But anyhow,
well, you're very kind.
It just ticks me off that he's treating Jeff Sessions this way. Jeff Sessions is a good man. He was the first man to come out and support him. He did all this Russia crap wasn't going on that much, and he did the right thing by recusing him. And Donald Trump made the statement, well, we're not going to go after Hillary and them. They're good people. They've been through enough. And then he gets on to Jeff Sessions for not going after him. Which way is it, Donald? And I told him in that thing today.
And you voted for Donald Trump, I take it?
Well, Ted Cruz is my first choice, but I was not going to vote for Hillary, even though I was.
Did you vote for Donald Trump or not?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But I wasn't going to vote for Hillary. I was a delegate for Hillary back in 2008 at the Texas Convention, and thanks to y'all, I woke up and I'm smart now. But I told him that he uses Twitter like a hammer. A hammer can do one of two things. It can build things. You can build things, or you can tear it down. And I told him that if I was his handler, I'd be doing everything I could to stop him from being a schoolyard bully, because that's what.
All right, we got it. All right, appreciate your call. Contrary opinion, Mark, Albany, New York, the great WGY country. Go.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to speak with you. I was listening to that lady, and I can understand. I can understand her passion about her being upset that President Trump is saying what he's saying, but I have to say I disagree with her. Mm-hmm. And when he recused himself, he kneecapped the president. And I believe that what's going on is bigger than
so why doesn't the president tell him to resign or fire him? What's with all the tweeting?
Well,
this is this is troubling to me. In other words, you don't need to rip the guy to shreds. You know, if this is your opinion, then execute. You're the president.
I have a theory. I have a theory that he's positioning himself for when Congress goes into recess. He's going to fire him, and he's going to do a recess.
Well, then why say all this stuff now?
I don't know. All I know is I'm a diehard Trump supporter. I've sacrificed a great deal. I've lost members of my family because.
I understand, but that doesn't mean you don't like the president. It means you're trying to help the president.
I am.
I'm trying to help the president. You hear what I say here every day. It doesn't mean I agree with him on every issue. I worked in the Reagan administration. Didn't mean I agree with Reagan in every issue.
But I, in a perfect world, which I know we're not in, I would like to see him fire Sessions. I would like to see him do a recess appointment, put in an attack dog, like you, and take out.
Oh, like me?
Like you. You're the first person I thought of.
Listen, Mark, and I like your name, by the way. I served at my 8 years in government. That ain't happening again. That much I can assure you.
At least like you. I would like to have an attack dog in there and take the fight to them.
There is nobody like me.
Well, I don't know. I'm just, you know how Rush says that the press, the mainstream medium, cannot separate Trump supporters from Trump, and I agree with him. That's the only thing.
Yes, but what? I don't get to listen as much as I'd like to because I do Levin TV. Let me just say this. But all his supporters are not diehard Trump supporters. Some people are people who voted for him because they didn't want Hillary.
Well, in general, I think he's correct because I feel that way. And the only thing that could make me not support Trump, when I began to support him, I believed him. I believe he's a fighter and he's going to take the fight to them. And that's what I want him to do. The only thing
but listen to me. Listen to me. Some people who are questioning Trump now are diehard Trump supporters. Some are not. That is, some are conservatives who supported him because they didn't want Hillary. Now, all that said, why the tweet storm attacks? You're the President of the United States. You want to act? Go ahead and act.
Well, I feel like he's taking a knife to a gunfight with that.
But you're making excuses. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I want him to take the fight to them.
Well, then fire him or tell him to resign. What's with the tweets?
Bringing a knife to a gunfight, and I would like to see him bring like a Moab, to a gunfight.
All right, Mark. God bless. By the way, Albany, New York, the capital of New York. How's New York going?
Do you know I changed my residence to North Carolina so that I could vote where my vote would count. I voted, and then I changed my residence back to New York. I did it all on the up and up. But that's how much I wanted this guy to win.
Well, you got him. So. All right, brother. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it. Paula, Tri-Cities, Washington, the great KFLD. How are you?
I am just fine, and I am thrilled at being able to talk to you. I think you are an erudite and a very learned man, and I respect you greatly.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
I am very upset about this negative liberty that you've been talking about. I think the perfect example of negative liberty is North Korea. That's negative liberty brought to its ultimate form.
You're right.
And I believe that if these people want a perfect example of negative liberty, then they should all get on the little boat and float themselves over to North Korea.
They'll never do it. They'll never do it because they're leeches off of capitalism and private property rights and our governing system while they advance their agenda. So they live in they benefit from the capitalist system while they're destroying the capitalist system.
And I truly don't believe that Tom Brokaw or Dan Rather or Katie Couric are going to willingly devote 90% of their income to raising up the people who are on welfare.
Who are
really
they?
Don't believe they are going to do that.
Who are they again?
Oh, Katie Couric and Dan Rather and Tom Brokaw. They're not going to do that. They like to espouse the progressive agenda on the news every night, but they certainly don't want to live by what the results will be.
All right, my friend. Appreciate your call. Mike, Little Rock, Arkansas, the great KARN. Go.
Mark, it's an honor to speak with you. I keep up the great work. I do have your book. I actually don't have it yet. I've ordered it, but it's on the way.
Thank you.
So I spent a lot of time in the car today, so I've had an opportunity to listen to a variety of different radio stations, and mostly talk radio, mostly conservative radio. And I was pretty disturbed with what I heard today, and that the majority of the conservative or pseudo-conservative commentators have been spending a significant amount of time justifying why Trump is upset with Sessions, or explaining why Trump is upset with Sessions, or why he should or should not have recused himself, and also making the claim that diehard Trump supporters are not going to leave Trump. This will not weaken his base in any way. And I completely disagree with that. I actually believe that a lot of conservatives held their nose when they voted for Trump. I being one of them. I did like a lot of his agenda, over half of it, which is a lot more than I would have gotten with the other alternative. But again, there is a certain prestige that should, come from, residing in the Oval Office. And to turn on someone like this who has been a loyal supporter, who actually is one of the most solid people in the Senate. He was a great senator, and I don't think he needed to be Attorney General. I'd be perfectly fine with him being back in the Senate, but to attack him like this in this manner has been incredibly offensive to me, and I think offensive to a lot of conservatives. So I think it is going to damage Trump's base. I think it is going to hurt his following, and it's a compounding effect. It's on top of him appointing Scaramucci, who was yet another liberal, and bringing them into his administration. So, we're left scratching our head wondering.
And by the way, Scaramucci is a liberal, unless somebody was tweeting in his name.
No,
there's gun control and anti-capital punishment and pro-abortion and, pro-Planned Parenthood, pro-abortion, so forth and so on. Those are positions he took in the last few years.
I completely agree with you. No, he's absolutely a liberal. And
I just think, with all the enemies lined up against Trump, why would you turn on Sessions at this point? Okay, you don't agree with him recusing him. I don't agree with his recusing either. Okay, but he did. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's like in the last few days, it's just hammer, 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 hammer. And look at all the things Sessions doing to support this president on immigration and a whole wide range of support, law enforcement agenda. And in terms of investigating leaks, when you're investigating leaks, you don't announce it. So I guarantee you the Justice Department is investigating leaks, but they're not going to announce it, are they?
No. One final point for you. I can't point to anyone else in Trump's administration that has gone further to actually executing his agenda than Jeff Sessions. So I really am confused by this, and it makes me frustrated, not to mention the fact that it is just rude. So
I want you to listen to this, too, because one of the complaints is he's not going after Hillary. This is from November 13, 2016, 60 Minutes. Cut 9, Mr. Producer, go.
Are you going to ask for a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton over her emails? And are you, as you had said to her face, going to try and put her in jail?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about it. I feel that I want to focus on jobs. I want to focus on health care. I want to focus on the border and immigration and doing a really great immigration bill. We want to have a great immigration bill. And I want to focus on all of these other things that we've been talking about and get the country straightened away.
You called her crooked Hillary, said you wanted to get in jail. Your people in your audiences kept saying lock him up.
Yeah. Well, she
did
some bad things. She did some bad things.
A special prosecutor?
I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. They're good people. I don't want to hurt them. And I will give you a very, very good and definitive answer the next time we do 60 Minutes together.
Well, he didn't appoint a special prosecutor. And I think he could still, if he really wanted to. So, I'm just pointing it out. And whenever you get into something like this, so you're told, well, you're for this, you're for that. I'm not interested in what team people are on. I think Jeff Sessions is an outstanding attorney general. He's been an outstanding senator, was an outstanding prosecutor, is a solid conservative. I don't agree with him on everything, but so what? He recused himself. We can debate that. I don't really feel he should have recused himself, but he feels he had to recuse himself. And that's what he did. But look at the long list of things he's doing to support this president's agenda. And by the way, he didn't appoint the Deputy Attorney General either. The President of the United States did. And I happen to think that was a major flaw. Rod Rosenstein is a bureaucrat. The President nominated him, not Jeff Sessions. And as I pointed out, if Jeff Sessions steps down or is removed, Rod Rosenstein is the acting Attorney General. Yes, the President can appoint a recess appointment as Attorney General, but it'd be very difficult to control that Justice Department under a recess appointment. And if he nominates somebody, I doubt very much the Senate will act on it at any time soon. So these things need to be kept in mind. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I think the Republicans in Congress, the leadership is killing this president and his family politically, destroying them. Richard Burr, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, is a disgrace. Chuck Grassley is becoming a disgrace. These are the people he needs to call into his office and browbeat. You know, you might be excited to go on vacation this summer, spend long days at the beach, maybe take the kids to an amusement park. You know who else is excited? Well, the burglars are excited. They know that you're going to leave your house, that you won't be there. Summer's a prime time for burglary. Now's the time to protect your home. For a limited time, you can take a whopping $100 off Simply Safe's special summer package. This is Simply Safe's biggest ever summer sale. It is everything you need to protect your home. An arsenal of security sensors to secure each door and window, a panic button, a blaring extra siren, and a wireless connection to authorities and police dispatch. Simply Safe has no long-term contracts at all, no installation costs, and no hidden fees. And 24/7 professional monitoring is just $14.99 a month. See what Simply Safe can do for your home. Go to simplysafemark.com, simplysafemark.com. Go there right now. You get $100 off this summer security package. Hurry, the sale ends July 31st, so it ends soon. That's simplysafemark.com to get your $100 off, simplysafemark.com. There's a big story that's been brewing over there at the Daily Caller. They've been on top of this, involving Debbie Wasserman Schultz and an IT aide. Debbie Wasserman Schultz's IT aide arrested at airport after transferring $300,000 to Pakistan from House office by Luke Rosiak. Florida Democratic Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz's right-hand information technology IT aide was arrested attempting to leave the country just a few hours after the Daily Caller News Foundation's investigative group revealed that he is a target of an FBI investigation. Ooh! Imagine that. I think we need a special prosecutor. The employees had wired $283,000 from the Congressional Federal Credit Union in a House office building to two people in Pakistan. Now, we're going to pursue this a little bit more thoroughly. I'm not going to rush it in the next 45 seconds. We're going to pursue this a little bit more thoroughly in the next hour. As I say, this has been brewing, and the Daily Caller has been on top of it. This is a major, major scandal involving the former head of the DNC, involving Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the House Democrat Party, and of course it won't be covered on CNN or MSLSD or any of the rest of the drug-addled network and cable shows. I'll be right back.
Sell stuff on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, your own website? Then you need ShipStation, a popular choice of online sellers across Canada. No matter where you sell, ShipStation automatically imports your orders, making them easier to manage. Plus, they'll help you get the lowest rates from all the top carriers, including Canada Post and Purolator. Now you can try ShipStation free for 30 days. Plus, get a special bonus when you use the code SHIPPING. To learn more, go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone and enter SHIPPING.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, Daily Caller, Luke Rosiak. Florida Democrat Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz's right-hand information technology, IT aide, was arrested attempting to leave the country just a few hours after the Daily Caller News Foundation investigative group revealed that he's the target of an FBI investigation. The employees had wired $283,000 from the Congressional Federal Credit Union in a House office building to two individuals in Pakistan. On January 18, 2017, at 12:09 p.m., an international wire transfer requested form was submitted at the Congressional Federal Credit Union at the Longworth office building in D.C. in the amount of $283,000. Two individuals in Falasbad, Pakistan, according to a 10-page affidavit obtained by the DCNF. Imran Awan, a Pakistani-born IT aide, had access to all emails and files of dozens of members of Congress, as well as the password to the iPad that Wasserman Schultz used for the DNC business activity before she resigned as its head in July 2016. In March, his wife, who also was on the House payroll, withdrew her children from school and left the country, the affidavit says. The Capitol Police confronted her at the airport but could not stop her. U.S. Customs and Border Protection conducted a search of Alvi's bags immediately prior to her boarding the plane and located a total of $12,400 in U.S. cash inside. Alvi was permitted to board the flight to Qatar, and she and her daughters have not returned to the United States, the affidavit says. Ooh, quite a little scandal brewing here. Soon after Imran began working for Wasserman Schultz in 2005, four of his relatives appeared on the payroll of other Democrats, many from Wasserman Schultz's home state of Florida, at inflated salaries. But Democratic staffers said they were rarely seen at work. They collected $4 million in total. House authorities told members in February that Awan and his relatives were suspects in a criminal investigation into theft and IT abuses, and they were banned from the Capitol network. Wasserman Schultz has refused to fire Awan, despite being a known criminal suspect in a cybersecurity probe for months, and has blocked Capitol Police from searching a laptop they confiscated because it was tied to Awan. You won't hear this on CNN, by the way, the Constipated News Network. The DCNF reported Sunday night the FBI had joined the investigation and seized smashed hard drives from Awan's home. The next day, the FBI apprehended him at Dulles Airport after noticing he had purchased a ticket to Pakistan routed through Qatar. The affidavit says he was charged with bank fraud due to a mortgage scheme, which was one of several financial schemes the DCNF has detailed. It appears to be a placeholder for future charges, spurred because of the attempt to leave the country, and does not mention his work for Congress, which is the investigation's primary focus. The Daily Caller reported that Awan's owned numerous rental properties that often have multiple mortgages taken out on them, and they have told renters they want payments in untraceable ways. The charging documents say Imran's wife, Hina Alvi, who also made $165,000 working for House Democrats, took out a second mortgage against her home from the Congressional Federal Credit Union by falsely claiming it was her principal residence, and that she will occupy the property, and also fraudulently reported no rental income on her taxes. It's with these Democrats. You got Sanders and now this. A renter told the FBI they paid approximately $2,000 per month for rent, and the rent check was written to Surai Begum. Based on information and belief, I know that Begum is Alvia's mother, an FBI agent wrote. Spelled B-E-G-U-M, but Begum sounds better. The agent also said Imran, you know, Mr. Producer, I need to go to a community college and get a course on how to speak these various languages. I really do. Because there's so many consonants, I don't know how to pronounce them. I really don't. So I use my generic yabba dabba do. A renter told the FBI they paid $2,000 per month for rent and that the rent check was written by Yabba Dabba Doo. Based on information and belief, I know that Yabba Dabba Doo is Alvia's mother, an FBI agent wrote. The agent also said Imran appears to have applied for the loan of the... So anyway, you see the scope of the theft that took place. Now, Gregory Meeks is a clown from New York, Democrat. He suggested that police had framed the Pakistani-born brothers out of Islamophobia. Of course, Gregory Meeks suffers from stupid phobia. Yet his own stepmother, a devout Muslim, filed court documents accusing him of using high-tech devices to wiretap her and extorting her. A dozen people have dealt with Imran, painted a picture of interviews of a charming, cunning extrovert who bragged about his power among Democratic officials and seemed to have an unquenchable thirst for cash. Fox News was first to report on the arrest. It goes on. Wow. That strikes me as a real scandal. Right under the nose of Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the Democrat Party. And so I do not expect CNN to report on this, being the Praetorian Guard, among others, for the Democrat Party. What do you think about this? It's a big deal, right? All right. Another thing I want to get to. Jack Reed was a left-wing Democrat from Rhode Island. Susan Collins is a left-wing Democrat from Maine. Collins and Lisa Murkowski voted against a debate on changing the Obamacare bill, while conservatives were being attacked by the likes of Orrin Hatch in Politico. Orrin Hatch, just hang it up, will you, brother? Humiliating yourself. Anyway, Senator Jack Reed is whispering to Susan Collins, and Susan Collins is whispering back, and they have a hot microphone. I don't think they have a hot date, but they have a hot microphone. I look at the two of them, and that's not possible to have a hot date. But anyway, it's a little hard to hear, so I will interpret it briefly. But it is Susan Collins talking to Jack Reed back to Susan Collins, and Collins back to Jack Reed. Cut 10, go!
No, you're the one who challenged me to a duel.
I know. Trust me. You know why I challenged you to a duel? Because you could beat the out of him first.
And he was so, I don't mean to be unkind, but he's so unattractive. It's unbelievable.
I saw the, you know.
Did you see the picture of him in his pajamas next to this bunny?
See, ladies and gentlemen, when you take all the phony stature away from these senators, they're just a couple of creeps. So Susan Collins said, did you see the one who challenged me to a duel? Jack Reed, I know, trust me. You know why he challenged you to a duel? Because you could beat the S out of him. Collins, he's huge and he's so unattractive, it's unbelievable. Did you see the picture of him in his pajamas next to his bunny? I'm not saying the description is wrong, but awfully catty. Now, let me say this. She's attacking this man because he's zaftig. He's very heavy. Happens to be a Republican from Texas, Blake Farenthold. Never heard of him before, but so what? But in any event, they're attacking him, and they're attacking him because he's heavy. And I must object. As you know, I'm the chairman of Fatties United, or FU. And as the chairman of FU, I have to say to Susan Collins, FU. And to Jack Reed, FU too. Fatties United. What's wrong with you people? It's very un-PC to be attacking people who belong to FU. And so I say to them, FU. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Remember Gerald Nadler? He's that little slob from Manhattan. Gerald Nadler, Democrat. I want you to listen to this. Cut 13, go.
But now we see the statistics that Gallup says that just 27% of the American public expresses strong confidence in newspapers, including 46% of Democrats and 13% of Republicans. And you can track that. You can track that to attacks on the press by people like President Trump and by others.
No. Media's numbers have always been low, dummy. Dummy, does this guy come out and defend Fox News when Obama was attacking it? Does he defend talk radio? Of course not. Does he defend any conservative media? No. Never. Go ahead.
In recent years, I think, especially the conservatives have tried to disparage the press, and they've had some success.
I see.
And you look at
the Democrats never disparage the press. Now, keep in mind, 98.7% of the press are Democrat liberal. But the tiny fraction that isn't, they cannot abide. Go ahead.
The precedent now, where the President of the United States keeps talking about the lying press, about the fake news and everything's fake news. You look back at the Nazis.
Stop. Well, you knew this was coming. The Nazis? Really? Look back at the Nazis? You dim-witted buffoon. Go ahead.
Press, the lying press. You destroy the faith in any information other than from President
Shut up, you idiot. Rambling on, the buffoon that you are. The Nazis. The Nazis. This is a guy who supported a president who helped arm the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran with $150 billion, and now they're working on their technological advances on nuclear warheads and ICBMs. This jerk should speak. This jerk. Now, speaking of jerks, we have this John Brennan, former CIA director. Voted for a communist when he was in college. And that, of course, drew his attention to Barack Obama, said, hey, cool, I'll make him CIA director. Go ahead, 14.
Nobody better than Bob Mueller, who is a straight shooter and will not be intimidated by
No, he's not a straight shooter. He just hired a bunch of left-wing lapdogs and empowered them to go after the President of the United States and his family. How's that a straight shooter, you jerk? Another jerk. Go ahead.
He's fired by Mr. Trump, or attempted to be fired by Mr. Trump. I really hope that our members of Congress, our elected representatives, are going to stand up and say enough is enough and stop making apologies and excuses for things that are happening that really flout, I think, our system of laws and government.
Yes, system of government really flouted, like unmasking American citizens, you know, and, oh, yes, where the FISA court even slapped down the Obama administration for its abuses, investigative abuse. Oh, yes, where their FBI director, Comey, was taking notes on the president and leaked them to the media. Oh, yes, flouting the law. Where he thumbed the nose at judges and violated separation of powers and did all those things. Oh, that's Obama. And he's talking to Wolf Blitzer, whose best days he never had, but to the extent he ever had them are way behind him. Go ahead.
Say enough is enough. What will
well, when do you say enough's enough? Go ahead.
Fired. And he's the President of the United States, so he could tell Rosenstein to fire him if he wants. But if he's fired, what would you want Congress to do?
Oh, what a tough question there, Wolf, with your 89 years of experience there. And I dare not threaten you because, according to your congressman friend Nadler, that would be like Nazi Germany and Hitler. Let's see what Brennan has to say. Let's see what he says, the former CIA director. Let's see what the former CIA director Brennan has to say. Brennan, who failed to stop the Russians from trying to interfere in our election. That Brennan, go ahead.
First of all, I think it's the obligation of some executive branch officials to refuse to carry out some of these orders that, again, are inconsistent with what this country is all about.
Why would you know what this country is all about, you schmo? How many here would even consider voting for a communist? I don't care how old you were. I don't care how old you were. Now this guy's telling us what the country's all about. Is it about Obamacare? Open borders? Is that what it's about? Trashing your own country when you're giving speeches abroad like Obama was known to do? Is that what that's all about? Arming up the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran? Is that what that's all about? Eviscerating the United States military? Trashing law enforcement? Is that what it's all about? Brennan, you jerk? All right. Let's take a call, shall we? Marilyn, Little Rock, Arkansas, KARN, go.
Mark, thank you so much for answering my call.
Yes.
Love your books. Bought 3, given 2 away.
Thank you.
Yeah, just awesome. I bought them before they went on sale. But I wanted to say, I called my senators yesterday, and in the president's line today.
That would be Tom Cotton, and who's the other one? I don't even know.
John Bozeman.
Bozeman?
Bozeman, yes, sir.
He's pretty useless. I never hear from that guy.
No, never. But better than the Democrat that ran.
Better than the Democrat, but a McConnell, puppet. Anyway, go right ahead.
Yes, you're right. I told them that I wanted them both replaced, and
you wanted what replaced?
McConnell and Ryan.
Yeah, and what did they say?
Replaced.
Did the 13-year-olds answering the phone hang up on you?
No, quite cordial. Didn't hang up. I just said, look, y'all need to really think about this. And I told them that regarding the health care battle, that we do not want Charlie Gard's health care.
Charlie Gard is the baby. Yep.
That's a mean thing to say, but that's exactly what we would have if
we'd have something akin to it, because there would be rationing, there would be lines. And as I've said over and over and over again, and the backbenchers have said, hey, I like that, I'll use that, which is, how many Americans do you know that go to Canada for health care?
I don't know any.
Of course, nobody does, because they don't believe in suicide. Yes.
No, they don't. And I told them if they didn't want to do that they could just give us the same health care that they have. And they got a big chuckle from them.
They have a great health care system on Capitol Hill, absolutely great. From soup to nuts, you and I pay for it.
Yes, we do. Absolutely, we don't. I told them we didn't want single.
And let me ask you this: do they look healthier on Capitol Hill? They look pretty sick to me. Sickly. Anyway.
Well, that's a mental state.
Okay. All right, I'm going to send you a signed copy of Rediscovering Americanism. Give your copy away to a friend, neighbor, or a homeless person. Thank you. What did you say, Rich? I didn't hear you. Oh, well, I can't take a call. 40 seconds. Now, if I were an amateur at this, I would just stare at a website and start reading it. But I'm not an amateur at this. When we come back, we're going to take more of your calls. And the reason is, I haven't taken a lot of your calls. I'll be right back.
If you turn off your radio and open the window, you can probably hear him straight from the studio. Call Mark Levin at 877-381-3811.
Me. Gold, ladies and gentlemen. I love gold. I have gold. I have gold coins. I like to take them out, like to look at them, like to hold them. I like to collect them. In addition to collecting them, just speaking for myself, I like to have them just in case. Just in case what, Mark? Just in case. That's why I have gold. It's got multiple purposes as far as I'm concerned. A wonderful gold company has been a sponsor for some time now, and that's Goldline. And Goldline also wants to provide you with a free exclusive report about the future of our economy and the great threats that are facing our economy by David Stockman. You might remember David Stockman was the director of OMB early on under Ronald Reagan. And I think this information is invaluable to everyone who cares about protecting their hard-earned savings and portfolio. I've seen this exclusive report. It's really good. And it's absolutely free just by calling Goldline. So if this is something you've been thinking about doing, you've heard me talk about Gold Line, now's the time to act. Get the free Stockman report. Call them. They'll send it to you. You might also want to ask them about the various products they have and the pricing and so forth, if you like. And they're very polite. They're very professional. And each account executive is trained. And so you'll see that, you'll hear that when you speak to them. This exclusive report, as I said, is available free by calling 1-877-365-COIN, 877-365-COIN. That's Gold Line. And I think you owe it to yourself to check it out. There's no risk. Be sure to read their important information to see if buying gold is right for you. They even have risk information for you to check if you choose to buy gold. But the call is harmless. Just check in with them. 877-365-COIN, 877-365-2646, and they're there right now. 877-365-COIN. All right, let's go on. I think I promised going to the callers, so I shall. Let us go to Dennis, Cleveland, Ohio, Sirius Satellite. How are you?
I'm fine. It's an honor to speak to you, and let me tell you in 5 seconds why I'm saying that. You're one of the few people that is truly fair and balanced. And by that, I mean you value, I don't care what the occupation is, educational background, you value the opinions of people calling in, and you don't give the time of day who people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. And if I want to hear those opinions, all I got to do is walk through an airport, pick up a newspaper or anything else.
Yeah, okay.
But
Very
good.
good.
Can I tell you why I called? Can I tell you
Yes,
why
sir.
I called?
Yes, sir.
This last couple of weeks, there's been an emphasis on Made in America. There's been an emphasis on American heroes. And what I have to say to you now, I said the same thing in defending Ted Cruz. You know who was made in America? Jeff Sessions. Mm-hmm. Why do I say that? Because the education circles he was immersed in and the people he hung around with, he kept the American values in the American way of life. And really what our president has to appreciate and value and hold on to is people that are truly made in America, because I'll tell you who was not, and that's Barack Obama. He may have been born here. I don't know about all that. But I know one thing. Once you go through those progressive, liberal...
Well, he was born here, but I think you're right that his ideology is foreign, I think you're going to say. Go ahead.
Well, one last thing I'd like to say. I know on his hat it said, "Make America Great Again." I'm tempted to call his office and say, you want to capsulize another thought? Tell people how you're going to do that. And the way you can do that is to do the right things at the right time and for the right reasons. And you need people like Jeff Sessions to get that done.
All right, Dennis. Hey, Dennis, I'm going to send you a signed copy of Rediscovering Americanism. Thank you, my friend. Now let's go all the way to Oregon. Ron, Medford, Oregon, the great KCMX. Go.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I was a little nervous.
Relax. No big problem. Just millions of people listening to you.
Yeah, that's okay. Now, the Bill of Rights was written to protect us, the citizens, against the government. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And how come once somebody becomes part of the government through getting a job there, they can use the Fourth and the Fifth against us? Why can they hide their evidence away from us? And how can they?
Well, that's not the way it's supposed to work. Just because they're in the government, they're on that side of the line. If you mean investigators and prosecutors, I guess, and auditors, they of course have to comply with the Fourth and Fifth. At least that's the theory.
Well, then how come we have everyone that testifies against Hillary or anybody else? They all plead the Fifth. They shouldn't.
But the Fifth is they plead the Fifth. It's in the Fifth. It's in the Fifth Amendment. But you're still a citizen. In other words, if for purposes of a criminal investigation or a criminal charge or a criminal trial, you're on trial as an individual for something you may have done as a public official, but you're still an individual citizen, so it applies to you whether you work or worked in the government.
Okay, well, they are, in essence, the government, though.
No, they're not. Not for the purposes of a criminal trial. You're tried as an individual. All right? Think about it. All right, Ron, think about it. Thank you. When somebody's on trial, you're not putting on trial the Environmental Protection Agency. Maybe you're putting on trial an individual who embezzled funds. I'm just throwing it out. Embezzled funds as part of their job at the Environmental Protection Agency. It's the individual who's on trial. And it doesn't say in there what kind of job you held in which you get to exercise your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. And I think that's a good thing. Individuals. It protects individuals against the government. So it's the federal government prosecuting the individual, whether the individual worked in the federal government or not. So you have certain rights. Certain due process rights, the right not to testify against yourself, and so forth. That's all good. Bill, Fairbanks, Alaska. We go from Cleveland and Oregon to Alaska. The great KFBX. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Thank you. I'm fine. And I wanted to thank you for all the work you do. You're very strong and fearless conservative voice. It's nice to hear someone with conservative with a backbone.
Thank you, sir.
Not a lot of like our Republican friends in Congress.
Boy, you got this Lisa. You've got this Lisa Murkowski who is a disaster.
You were broken up a little bit.
I was saying your Lisa Murkowski is a disaster.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I think she had a very clever campaign last time. She knew what buttons to push, and
yeah, she's a liar. Anyway, go ahead.
So you remember a couple weeks ago now, you broke the story that Comey could be indicted for releasing the tapes and conversations he had with the president. And that was on
I don't believe I broke a story. I believe I was analyzing it.
Okay.
And yes, because it wasn't his property.
Exactly, and it was on Yahoo News one time, and then the Donald Trump Jr. story broke, and it was all about that. Here's another question.
Excuse me, sir, are you accusing the media of being fake? Well, no, according to Nadler, you're like Hitler.
I'm accusing the media of being woefully biased. And does Donald Trump have a handler? He needs to have a handler.
I think you're asking the wrong guy. They don't, I've never been to the White House under this president. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago. I've never been to his other. I've never had lunch there. I've never had dinner. I don't know. You're definitely asking the wrong guy.
Well, I think I'm talking to the right guy, though. That's what I think.
Does he have a handler? Apparently not, if to answer your question.
Silly question.
On the other hand, I think Schumer needs a handler too, don't you?
Yeah. Judging by what's going on lately, but
may I ask you a question, Bill? You're a very sharp guy. What's going on with Schumer's hair?
Sir, I don't know. I don't know. It's
that little dabble do ya stuff. That went out like what, in the 50s?
I guess, but I think we really need to worry about when he.
Do you think he has diesel oil in his hair? I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, go right ahead, sir.
I've got diesel oil in my hair. It looks nothing like
really?
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've worked for a living.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, just wanted to thank you. I love listening to you on the drive home. I learned a great deal from you, and I think we need to be, I need to encourage our Republicans to have some more courage and stand by their values and stand by conservatism.
Well, we need to clean it up. Murkowski needs to go. I'll tell you what, Bill, don't hang up. We're going to send a book all the way to Fairbanks, Alaska. So thank you. Don't hang up. I can't send everybody a book, ladies and gentlemen. Rediscovering Americanism. You can go on Amazon right now. It's $16. You know what the retail price is? $27. It's also deeply discounted at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, Target, your independent bookstores, Sam's, BJ's, Costco. Everywhere. You're surrounded. Mike, Corpus Christi, Texas, Sirius Satellite. Go.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. I already have a book, by the way. I've just barely started reading it, so I can't really expound on it. But I'm sure it's going to be a great book. I wish it was autographed, though. I have several autographed ones. But anyway, my question is, they start these special prosecutors look into Russia. Why can't Trump start one?
Hold on, sir. No offense. Get me my Meet the Press music, Mr. Producer, and don't hang up on this man. Send him a signed copy of Rediscovering Americanism. Breaking story, and I do mean it. The Hill newspaper newly declassified memos detail the extent of improper Obama-era NSA spying. John Solomon. The NSA and FBI violated specific civil liberty protections during the Obama years by improperly searching and disseminating raw intelligence on Americans, or failing to promptly delete unauthorized intercepts according to newly declassified memos that provide some of the richest detail to date on the spy agency's ability to obey their own rules. The memos reviewed by The Hill were publicly released on July 11 through FOIA litigation by, of all groups, the ACLU. Continue. They detail specific violations that the NSA or FBI disclosed to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court or the Justice Department's National Security Division during President Obama's tenure. Yeah, that's right, between 2009 and 2016. The intelligence community isn't due to report on compliance issues for 2017, the first year under the Trump administration, until next spring. The NSA says that the missteps amount to a small number, less than 1%, when compared to the hundreds of thousands of specific phone numbers and email addresses, damn computer, and email addresses the agency intercept through the so-called Section 702 spying program. Quote, quite simply, I'm working on this, the computer screwed up. Quite simply, a compliance program that never finds an incident is not a robust compliance program, said Michael T. Habig, the NSA's chief spokesman. The NSA has in place a strong compliance program, they say. But critics say the memos undercut the intel community's claim that it has robust protections for Americans incidentally intercepted under the program. Americans should be alarmed that the NSA is vacuuming up their emails and phone calls without a warrant, says Patrick, come on now, Toomey, an ACLU staff attorney. The NSA claims it has rules to protect our privacy, but it turns out those rules are weak, full of loopholes, and violated again and again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that fascinating? Yes, it is. Under the Obama administration, where's Adam Shifless? Where's Richard Burr? Wake that jerk up. Where is, what's the other one? Mark Tourette's Warner. Where's that guy? Where's Chuck Grassley? Well, here you have the breaking story, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Other violations. Numerous over-collection incidents where the NSA gathered information about foreigners or Americans it wasn't entitled to intercept. Isolated instances in which the NSA, damn computer, in which the NSA may have complied with the document request justifying intercepts or searches of intercepted data. The misuse of overly broad queries or specific U.S. person terms to search through NSA data, and on and on and on. This is what our intelligence communities are supposed to be investigating. This is what the oversight committees are supposed to be looking at. This is what a special counsel's needed for. The Obama administration's domestic surveillance program on Americans. I'll be back.
Mark Levin.
You know, it's hard to believe that 2017 is almost 3/4 over. Time doesn't stand still, so don't waste another minute. Join AMAC right now. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. It's the leading conservative voice for Americans age 50 and up, and they're resolved to continue their mission to restore America's moral compass, to make America a better place for our children, and to save America from the AARP and the left. As an AMAC member, you'll also gain access to a variety of exclusive benefits and discounts that'll help you save money. From car insurance and Medicare plans to discounts and benefits on hotels and car rentals and more. AMAC is the organization to join. the organization to join. A voice for conservatives in Washington, exceptional benefits. Doesn't get any better than that. Join AMAC right now. Go to www.amac.us. That's www.amac.us. Or you can call them toll-free at AMAC, 888-262-2006. That's 888-262-2006. The Association of Mature American Citizens. The benefits are great. The cause is even greater. Join AMAC right now. Don't wait. Join. Great benefits, and they speak for us. Great benefits, and they speak for us. Let's see. Let us go to Mark, Carmel, New York, on Sirius Satellite. Yes, Mark.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Let me look. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for the way that you speak about the nature of our rights. And lately I've been thinking about Charlie Gard and how the government decided
Charlie Gard is the baby who the government in Britain and then the EU would not allow to get potentially treatment, experimental treatment that might have helped the baby live. Or the baby's living, but it looks like now the baby's dying. Go ahead.
Yes, and the government decided that it alone has the right to decide if that child should live or die. And the European Court previously determined that the hospital has the right to terminate life support for the child. Now, one thing to Trump's credit is he intervened and requested that, Charlie Gard be given the ability to come to the U.S. and seek treatment.
Yes, yes. Now, where are we going with this? I've talked about this case before.
Well, I wanted to thank you for the way that you speak about our rights, the nature of our rights, about natural law, because nobody else seems to be doing it. And you put it in such an eloquent way that really makes us think about it, and it's something that's missing.
Well, you're very, very kind. Very, very kind. I appreciate that. All right, my friend, let's go quickly to nobody. I'm sorry, everybody else. I apologize. Time is up. But guess what? We're going to do this again tomorrow. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. I have a very important Levin TV right now about what's going on in the Middle East. I would really like you to check it out. Don't forget, get your copy of Rediscovering Americanism. You can get it right now on Amazon or any bookstore. I'll see you tomorrow, America. Be well.
Do you sell stuff on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, your own website? Then you need ShipStation, a popular choice of online sellers across Canada. No matter where you sell, ShipStation automatically imports your orders, making them easier to manage. Plus, they'll help you get the lowest rates from all the top carriers, including Canada Post and Purolator. Now you can try ShipStation free for 30 days. Plus, get a special bonus when you use the code SHIPPING. To learn more, go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone, and enter SHIPPING.